Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today with episode 180 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it's me, Karak, with ACG.
Karak, how are you doing, my brother?
Absolutely excellent, other than almost choking prior to this start.
Yeah, I was getting ready to do the countdown, and Karak's like taking energy drinks
and
everything.
I was chugging that thing, too, and you're like, 3, 2 hours. Oh, shit, we're going to have a disaster.
Anyway, we are going to be focusing on all the Game of the Year or Game Award categories, one of them including Game of the Year. It's going to be our predictions, what we would select in these various categories. But before we get into that, as always, our typical introduction. Let's start off. Karak, what are you working on this upcoming week?
Defending my Darksiders review, like a thesis, it feels like. It's so polarized.
Yeah, dude. That had to be one of the... Not only a quiet launch, but such, like you said, polarizing, dude.
Polarized, man.
I kind of cranked on the game, and a lot of people were unhappy with that. But I've also seen, I think Game Informer gave it an 8. And I was like, wow, that's really, really good.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and I would not probably say they were wrong in their own world. Like this is one of those games where I can see some people, you know, that unique viewpoint, but it was crazy to see, and people have been very nice, but I mean, there's been like a lot of discussion about it. I think some of it's fan base, to be honest. You know, unfortunately, I think some of it's sort of not seeing the forest for the trees. But so we've been discussing that in podcasts. I'll discuss it further on Darksiders for sure, and then doing reviews right now for Mutant Year Zero, which is the XCOM / Forest Animals kind of game. Just looks insane. It's coming out on Game Pass day and date for the PC version. And then I am reviewing Just Cause 4.
Nice. Yeah, I got a request to review that game, but by Square Enix, but I don't know. You know, for me, this is the time of the year where I start to kind of not decline, but more so, what's the better word for it? Coast. You know, it's like, all right,
yeah, for sure.
It's discussion season, it's Game of the Year season, it's roundup season, it's top 5, top 3, top 10 list season for me, and I've always liked that part of the year because it's kind of a breakaway from what I normally do. So I think my reviews after Fallout are done. I'm probably going to do Red Dead with a combination of Red Dead Online and the single player package. But for me, upcoming content in the next week, really only thing I know that's set in stone is obviously the Obsidian in-depth analysis of whatever they're revealing. I cannot wait. I am so excited to see this new thing they are working on. I've heard rumors it's like a first-person sci-fi RPG, so that'll be really interesting to see, especially with, you know, now we have the Microsoft budget backing it.
Yeah,
maybe they can do more than they had initially imagined with the game. I feel like, you know, sky's the limit for this one, so that's why I'm really excited to see what Obsidian's bringing out. And also a cool announcement. We have a new overlay coming in. Karak and I currently are in possession of it. It's just getting some final tweaks. It's not being used for this episode because we know, for those who do watch the podcast visually, we've had this four section overlay for a while, and usually it's just Karak and I talking. So we're gonna have now an overlay for when we have multiple people, which will be the one that's used now. And then the upcoming one's going to be for when it's mostly just Karak and I, and it's awesome. The artwork there is so cool. So we can't wait to reveal that to you. Should be done within a week or two, tops. No pressure on the artist if he's listening, so if it's going to take longer than that, do not worry. But,
where is it? I'm just joking.
But anyway, with all of that out of the... Oh, last but not least, be sure to flick a buck at the Patreon, and... If you do so, you'll get early access to the podcast, you get access to the Patreon Discord, you get to talk to myself and a lot of other wonderful people there. I cannot commend how incredible my Patreon Discord personally has been. I know the same thing goes for you, Karak. It's just, you know, the most awesome, passionate, kind-hearted people that I've really encountered online. It's wonderful. So it's a good place to be for discussion. And now, with all that out of the way, let's get into some predictions, starting off with Game of the Year. Got to start off big, you know? So, we're going based off the selections that are listed for the Game Awards website, and then we're going to talk about what we think would win, I guess objectively speaking, and then what we want to win, and obviously the hows and whys of that. So, for Game of the Year, right now, what is listed is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Monster Hunter World, and Red Dead Redemption 2. Karak, what do you got?
So you and I want to make sure before we move on, you and I will mostly not be interjecting what we think should win if it's not on the
No, we
list.
absolutely can, yeah.
So I think Red Dead's going to win.
Okay.
I think it's going to win. Like, I'm not saying it should win. I'm saying, do either one of us think that the juggernaut that is Red Dead, even with the online not really nailing it right now, like...
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I feel like Spider-Man or God of War could just as easily take it, but Red Dead's just such a titan.
And you know who votes for those, right? It's the journalists that, like, that's the thing.
Oh, right, they are involved in this. Yeah, so yeah, Red Dead.
Yeah, so that's why I think, right? Like, that's why you won't see an indie game on there, because a lot of them, there were too many big games to cover. They didn't have even the numbers, even like you and I, where, like, we don't have the time to cover a game. A lot of the indie games didn't get even covered. A lot of them didn't even get reviewed.
Which sucks.
So.
I mean, fortunately, Celeste, it gets a lot of looks. It gets a lot of looks. I will let viewers and listeners know in advance, you're going to hear a lot of Odyssey, Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead Redemption 2 in almost all of these selections, because they...
And what you're not going to hear and should is Pool Panic.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. One of the greatest indie games to ever come out. God,
I remember watching you play that.
Dude, I've never... I'm allergic to alcohol, bitches, and somebody was still like, he's drunk. And I can't be drunk. It doesn't work. But I've never laughed that hard. Like, I was just laughing. That and Mud Runners. You ever played the Mud Runners game where you're driving cars out in the woods? It doesn't sound fun at all, Maddie. Like, if you told me that, I'd be like, that sounds like... And I had a blast. But Pool Panic, yeah, is not on there. Celeste is. It's great. But doesn't it feel like this list is created just so they can say they put an indie? Or Celeste is on there just like, look,
what's interesting,
here's a street cred.
Is Celeste was like a January release. It was very, very early, in the year. So it definitely withstood some pretty big games to come out. And there's actually a whole indie category too. So it'll be interesting. Sadly, though, by the way, Pool Panic is not there either. But
yeah.
I'll be interested to get your take on that. So you think Red Dead's going to win? I agree. What out of these games here, I don't know if any of them actually are your game of the year on this list, but what would you pick if you were to vote?
Yeah, I would say it's my assumption for game of the year. I am going, can we clarify one more thing? I should have clarified this prior.
You're good.
These guys choose December 6th. So Smash Brothers isn't even on here, which I think is a fucking travesty. Unless you're Mayan or on another planet, December 6th isn't the end of your fucking year. So these guys are way early. So remember that Smash people won't be hearing Smash Brothers at all. Even though, who knows, right? It could be Game of the Year. There's a lot of indie games this year. So I just want to make sure people are clear. They're choosing December 6th. Maddie and I are not. I don't know what
that's
he's
a good
doing.
point. That's very good to clarify, because I never even thought of that. Good point.
I think overall, like, I think Red Dead's just a juggernaut, dude. Like, I think it's going to sweep everything. Like, a lot of these answers, it's not my answer, for a lot of these topics.
Like, well, you're picking from this list?
If I'm picking from this list, again, Red Dead. If I was picking from any list for Game of the Year, I would say The King's Bird is very close. Pool Panic is very close. Red Dead, very close. By all means, when I diss on Red Dead, I'm not, like, saying it's terrible. I'm just saying it's the juggernaut, like, and well worthy. God of War is great, too. But I think I would have more indies on my list. That's just me.
No, it's awesome, though. That's the thing. These are games that don't get recognition, and they're very good. One of my games of the year, is a indie game, which is actually on one of these lists. So I'll be sure to let those who stay tuned, which that is. If I were to pick from this list, though, it would definitely be Red Dead Redemption 2, because that's my game of the year. I just think that game is very special. But more, if not that, it would be Spider-Man, because... it's a tough year. It's a tough year to vote.
Tough year.
Those are all great selections.
And also, do you feel this could just be me, and I haven't actually got to ask another YouTuber, so this will be the first time asking anybody. Do you feel like Forza 4 was completely shafted? Because as a racing game, and the amount of shit Forza Horizon 4 did, the fact that it's not in Game of the Year as a racing title, I don't know. That it sort of feels weird. I guess. I think that's one of the best racing games made of all time when it comes to taking everything changing landscapes, different weather, multiplayer that just worked. I'm going to say that multiple times, but it did. It just worked.
Can't say it the same anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. Does it feel? Do you not agree? Because I don't. You didn't review Forza.
I did not review, nor did I play it. But as an outsider looking in, I am always of the school of thought that when you're making a list, especially if you're voting for Game of the Year and you're hosting a big show, I feel more options are better. There's more representation, more people, because like regardless of whether we like it or not, a lot of people connect their, we've talked about before, their ego, their emotions to games, and they feel like, yes, the game I love got on there. So in my opinion, if you're creating a show based off that, the more games, the better. And I have heard like so many people talk about how amazing Horizon 4 is. And I played 3, I reviewed 3, and I loved that. And I still go back to it to this day and say, oh, wow, I don't like racing games, but Horizon 3 clicked with me. So I can only imagine 4 should be there. And what's even crazier to me is why they don't have that listed, but also that Assassin's Creed has actually made a Game of the Year list. It's amazing. That's insane.
In a good way.
In a very good way, because Ubisoft really, I felt, outdid themselves with a lot of what happened with Odyssey. I didn't think it was perfect. I thought there were certain parts of the game that were weaker than others, and I thought it still suffered a little bit from that revolving door of characters. But what overall, the world they created, the interconnection of activities, the cult of Cosmos, a refreshing protagonist. I loved Cassandra, the choice and consequence that was there, albeit not, as frequently as I think a lot of us would want in something like a Witcher, but still like a really big step forward for them. So I'm glad. I feel like each of the games listed here
is really worthy of being there.
Worthy, yeah. They each moved a genre forward, or their respective franchise a huge step forward. I think Spider-Man was one of the best superhero games made. God of War, one of the best open-world action adventure games made, and not only that, but a huge step forward for the franchise that was kind of a beat-em-up and took it 20 steps further. Red Dead 2, I've always said it, probably the best open-world I've ever been a part of. I want to emphasize those words, though. Not best open-world game I've played, but best open-world as a design I've been a part of. Monster Hunter World really pushed Monster Hunter into the mainstream, which was originally, I'd argue, it was always popular, but I wouldn't say it was on the level of mainstream like it kind of is now, where it sold, 9 million copies or something like that?
Yeah,
Celeste,
an insane amount.
That a lot of people say that was like a pixel perfect 2D platformer. I mean, like, there's a lot of progression with this list here, so that's why it's also equally as puzzling that a game like Forza Horizon 4 did not make it.
Yeah, Spider-Man's cool. I still think I expected Spider-Man, but I will say, when you and I were reviewing Odyssey, I had come off Origins, and there were some bugs, and overall I just didn't love it as much. And it was funny because I remember I don't get nervous, so if I don't really know what people are, we're not really allowed, aside from you and I and maybe a couple others, you're not really supposed to talk to anybody prior to your review going live. They're like, we want you to not talk. And so, you and I will give generalizations, like, a lot of times. Sometimes we'll talk in more detail, but sometimes we'll just be like, it's just like, I do like this, I don't like this. Sometimes we'll, say what we're thinking of giving something. But what was weird about Odyssey, dude, is I hit that enter button, the review went live, everybody's reviews go live, and I was genuinely shocked that there were so many people who had a fun time, which to me is it's the epitome of a game. A game is fun. Red Dead's an experience, but holy shit, there was almost a cult of personality around Assassin's Creed, where it was just like people were like, it is a blast to play, which I think is it's such a huge leap forward for Assassin's Creed games, whether you want to call them that or not anymore. But it's a huge leap forward.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I get that feeling, though, because you were talking about, like, being nervous before a review drops, because you're in this, like, I always described it since Fallout 4. Like, that was my first really big review, and I was like, you're in a bubble, and you're this was before I was friends with other reviewers, and we could bounce off each other a little bit. So, and I was much younger at the time, so I was like in this tiny bubble. you're just playing the game. You have your own self-contained thoughts. You don't have the discussion, the dialogue. You almost have to have it with yourself now, or with like your small group of reviewer friends. And so, like, for example, Darksiders 3 and Fallout, I know Darksiders 3, I'm like, this is, kind of niche, but I know there's a large fan base here that really wants this game to succeed. And I'm thinking,
yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, well, this game's a bargain bin game, I thought. It's good for what it is, but for $60, I did not think it was worth it at all. Same thing with Fallout. I'm very much ingrained in that community, and I'm like, people are really, really curious to hear the official word on what I've got to say about this one. And right when I was eating lunch and I was sitting at my table, and I think I was on my phone, and I realized, because my videos normally go live at 12 Eastern Standard Time. I saw like it was like 12:10, and like my stomach dropped. I was like, oh shit, my review's live. Like, what's happening? So yeah, I feel that, bro. I feel that.
Yeah, definitely an interesting time to be a reviewer. That's for sure.
Next, we've got Best Ongoing Game. We have the list of Destiny 2, Forsaken, Fortnite, No Man's Sky, Overwatch, and Rainbow Six Siege.
I mean, Fortnite will win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but my answer is probably it might mimic yours, but if we're talking about best ongoing, ignoring the state a game is in when it came out and just looking at what they added, No Man's Sky is definitely high on my list.
Yeah,
even though I didn't love it once it's been fixed, the fact is if when you look at it, it has been so much improved, which I guess just proves release a shitty game and 2 years later you can win an award. Whatever, right?
I was about to agree with you, but right when you said that, I'm like, wait, fuck, I don't want to give that an award.
Exactly.
I almost want to be a prick, but you see, for me, I kind of fell out of Overwatch after the first year and a half of playing it. I put about 300 plus hours into that game. I think I just played it so much, I just felt it was time to move on to something else. So, but I've heard from the Overwatch community, and this may be entirely inaccurate because it's just been a couple of friends and other people who still play, that it kind of got worse over time, and it's kind of been like a bumpy ride because they've like tweaked so many heroes, and like something with Mercy, I remember it's just been like kind of an up and down thing. Rainbow Six Siege, I'm so weird with that game because I played it a lot at launch. Once it started getting popular, I was like, yeah, I'm a part of this thing, and then just fell off of it. But that one I only put like 80 hours into. Destiny 2 I've never played, so for me, I'm right there with you. Probably, if I'm being real, No Man's Sky I'd want to pick just because it's also a symbol of never giving up to me. Like you kind of look at it and it's like, damn, they were an indie team. Everything went against them in many ways, rightfully so, and they could have just given up, but they kind of they took it in some form of stride, went completely off the grid.
Yeah, they just went dark. There's no output for a while.
Yeah, and now I think they're dropping another big update.
They are,
or they did, or something like that.
And last week, I don't know if you saw it, but I think it was last week or the week before, they offered the update that adjusts biomes and actually adds new worlds. So it's just like, or at least maybe adjust the worlds you're in. But yeah, dude, the amount of, again, you and I, so that people don't freak out, are not ignoring the fact completely, actually understanding the fact that the game wasn't good upon release. So it had a bigger gulf that it could sort of, eat up and get this award from. But yeah, it's insane.
This was kind of the year that punctuated a bounce back with the No Man's Sky next update that was like, yeah, like here it is, multiplayer I think was a thing. They had like third person. There was a lot tied into this experience, and so that's why I kind of want to give the award to it. But realistically, yeah, Fortnite's probably going to win because like, how do you compete with like just that? How many times do they update that game and add something new? There's just so much money going into the project.
And I'm not a fan of it, but the number of people I know who genuinely have a blast and find it incredibly fun is really high, and I think that's great. Like it's just it's awesome. Like, dude, it's a juggernaut, just like Red Dead.
And also, I mean, now that we say we were quick to be like, well, you released a shitty game 2 years later, you get an award. But with Fortnite, it wasn't supposed to be this at launch. It was a shitty horde
Battle
mode.
Royale was released late, right?
Yeah, it was an early access free thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man. So Fortnite could also be on that list, but
True.
I know because it's so popular, it gets kind of a rap of like, oh, casual game and all that stuff. But I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I remember well before it became really popular and PUBG was kind of like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember saying Fortnite's gonna like take over. It's just, it was so much more fun, and the building was fun, and yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, sifting right along to best game direction. We have listed A Way Out, Detroit Become Human, God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2. Like I said, that trio is going to be sticking together for the long run here.
A lot.
Yeah. So where do you sit on best game direction?
Easily my personal choice. This one I'm a little more confused on who may win, but my personal choice, without a shadow of a doubt, is A Way Out, or
Really?
No Way Out. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, when it comes to improving upon different systems that have come in the past, multiplayer, synchronicity, having to make sure that you do like timed locks at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
all this crazy stuff. Then they took in like these other games, like point and click adventures or narrative based games, and handled that as well on top of it. And then third person shooting on top of that. And then I think it innovated also in how it delivered its content, which is one game was only needed for two people. That was, no one's ever done that before.
Right,
where they're like,
right.
if you just buy it for $15, I think it was 15 or 20 bucks. It wasn't even full price. Maybe it was 40 at the time. I can't remember. They were like, you just buy one copy and you can play with any friend for free. They don't have to pay. And it's just like, that alone is well worth it. But
yeah, absolutely. I can agree with that. I think you can make a good case for naturally every game on this list.
Yeah.
I feel like Spider-Man is not one I'd pick, though, because, while I think Spider-Man, like I said, I still stand by it, one of the best superhero games ever made, and I loved its story, I loved its open world and its side activities. It very much functioned in a lot of ways like an old Ubisoft open world title.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
that isn't necessarily the best direction, I feel. Red Dead's more organic, like you said, it's more of an experience. So how much direction is kind of, I guess, up to the player, right? Like they just put all these pieces into the world and interactions that can be had, and it just kind of, it happens, right?
Yeah.
I guess that obviously takes some form of direction, but still, to keep that all organized and not messy. I kind of want to, I haven't played it yet, but from what I've seen of like the tree and the choices and the outcomes, I almost want to pick Detroit Become Human, because I feel like that is so much narrative work to make it, to have it all make sense, to have certain solutions that happen early game and stay permanent, work with something completely different on another branch on the other end of the game. I just feel like it just goes beyond a brain's capacity to handle, and that it takes multiple very talented, intelligent people to keep the story emotional, impactful, and yet still have all these branching choices and consequence. So I know I hate to be that guy and make a selection based off a game I've never played, but just from my perspective, everything else on this list jumps out to me in a different way, but like direction and how you have to keep a certain title organized, I think Detroit Become Human really takes the cake on that one.
Yeah, I love that game. I've only beat it twice, but in the Discord, like we'll be talking and I'll say, my character died here or whatever. This one character, sorry. And then somebody else is like, wait, what? They can die there? Like I have no clue. And
it's crazy.
To me, I think A Way Out, the only reason I like A Way Out, or feel A Way Out does it more, is because they also have choice that can change. And so it's a mini version of Detroit, where I think Detroit also is probably one of the biggest improvements from the past games I've ever seen, because their other games, sorry, I know people might like David Cage, but no. Aside from maybe
Heavy Rain was good.
What one?
Heavy Rain?
Heavy Rain. I know some people like that, but I wasn't a fan. I would say
I've liked all their work, man. Like even the game that came out after Heavy Rain.
I have too, but I don't think they're good. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I like them, but I don't think they're. Detroit is commercially, I don't know how to describe it. It's easier to digest. They've done it right, I guess.
I think it's probably because from what I've heard, a lot of the situations are like, wow, I could see this actually happening almost like, you know, the whole Android, if that's even what they're called.
Yes, yeah.
The whole Android situation and are they human, are they not, kind of thing. I think a lot of people are like, wow, this is something we could see, you know, one day. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but for me, I don't know. I liked Heavy Rain a lot, and I even remember really enjoying Beyond Two Souls. Yeah, it was definitely flawed in some ways, for sure. But I remember playing the story and just being very captivated by what was happening. That was a game that was kind of like Darksiders 3. I remember it got 4s and 5s, and then I remember seeing like Rev 3 Games gave it a 10.
Yeah.
And I was dumbfounded. I was thinking to myself, okay, like someone thinks this is the best game, or I think 5 out of 5, whatever they did there. Someone thinks this is like one of the best games of the year, and other people think this is like a mediocre average launch. It's
average game, yeah.
Number scores. Next. Best narrative. Detroit Become Human, God of War, Life is Strange 2, Episode 2, a new entry. Here we go. And Spider-Man along with Red Dead.
You can go first.
Best narrative. You know, I feel like my answer would be completely different. I played Detroit because I know it's a very story-heavy game, so I just get this sinking feeling that would sync with me the best.
Right.
I personally like Red Dead for more than just its story, which I thought was fantastic. I'm torn between that and Spider-Man. God of War's story was great, but I wasn't as grabbed as a lot of other people were. And I thought the change, the twists, one of them was better than what I think was supposed to hit people a lot harder towards the end. I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't want to say more than that. But yeah, for me, I kind of want to lean towards Spider-Man just because that's the first time a superhero game based off this character has actually made me care about the man beneath the mask and the people connected to him and really made me feel something. Whereas Red Dead Redemption 2, I think, is a real achievement in incredible storytelling because you have a camp of like 20 people.
Right.
And I'd say, you know, for the ones that actually do matter, like a Dutch's gang and some of the characters on the outside connected to them, they do a good job developing all of them and making them worth caring about. Even if you played the first Red Dead, you kind of know, what's going to happen here.
Yeah, it's not going to be a shock for some of those characters.
Exactly. So I feel like between Spider-Man and Red Dead, it's hard to say because with Red Dead, like I said, that's got to be so good to say, like, yeah, you knew what was going to happen and you were still blown away. So I feel like it's also Red Dead's acting and execution. I'd probably go Red Dead.
I think Red Dead will win. I think the issue also when an interactive medium is that I know I talked to a lot of people at a slow point in Red Dead 2 that really slowed down for them and they weren't so happy. Yeah, where I think Spider-Man, because of the more linear, still open world, but the linear story progression, it's a little easier to keep going in Spider-Man.
Absolutely.
So, for example,
it doesn't
you have a
speed.
story. Yeah, you have a story moment in Red Dead, and they're like, go all the way over here to start the next story. But in, like, Spider-Man, it's all boom, boom. If you choose to, it's like boom, 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 boom. So, personally, I also think that the foreshadowing, and I said this in another podcast, so if anybody's rewatching this, I apologize for repeating myself. But I got to say, I just really like the narrative in Spider-Man because, like, he's my favorite Doc Ock now, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I like him better than the movie Doc Ock. I like most of the characters in the game better than their movie versions, which is rare for me. Usually I find the game versions just not nailing it. You and I completely disagree. I fucking hate MJ, and I know you were totally fine with her. I've never wanted to hold somebody's head underwater as much as I do her. But that's not her, the actress. That's the that's the writing and the character. But I think Spider-Man, dude, and Spider-Man. I'm not going to spoil this, but there's a part in Spider-Man where there's a mini game. Okay, so the mini games in Red Dead, if you do them, there's no real impact on your main game. Like, it's just like, here's Five Finger Jack or whatever the fuck it's called. Here's poker, blah, blah, blah. You do get to play in the camp poker and those games, which I thought was cool. But in Spider-Man, when you're fixing things, he continually talks. and interjects where it's going to matter. Like it'd be like, oh, it's just a little 2 or 3 sentence thing.
It's great
But he's
audio
like,
direction, yeah.
yeah, and so you're constantly like leaning forward, going, oh, this mini game I'm doing, which also gives me points to buy suits, additionally has a little bit of a narrative edge. And then there's one part in that game, so I won't ruin it for anybody, but there's a part where you're repairing something, and you've repaired it and you get to move it around. And when you do, you realize all of the movements are violent actions, and it dawns on you, if you understand the characters or what have you, you're like, I get this already. Like, it completely makes sense why this mechanical thing is doing the only specific things. I would have to say personally for me, and I hope Spider-Man.
Yeah,
like I just love that
totally,
shit.
I can absolutely see why that. It does a good job of, I think, synchronizing with its player.
Yeah.
Where like you said, as he kind of goes step by step, he figures something out. It's like you're kind of like, is this what I think it is? And then he kind of says it and confirms it. And I feel like there's a good almost relationship that gets established between the player and Peter, where it's like you're working together to figure something out. And that happens a lot during the story. And also, I think, for example, the movement in Spider-Man in its world is a lot faster. So from going mission A to mission B, you can get there in like 30 seconds. And you can also appreciate how like they added the different audio tracks for like Peter grunting when he's web swinging.
Yeah, when he's swinging versus normal.
Versus when he's just standing still and he talks fine. And the way those tracks overlay and gradually swap. I mean, it's actually fascinating what they did. That's a crazy level of attention and detail. I know some people do have issues with Chapter 5 in Red Dead Redemption 2. I personally get exactly why, but I also feel like it develops, I don't want to say what happens, but it develops a certain character a lot more, and it kind of feels like, you know, the tipping point. And so I feel like it kind of hits that a little bit more, but it definitely is a bit of a deviation away from what really grabs you. But yeah, Spider-Man or Red Dead 2, wouldn't argue either of those personally. Or
I probably wouldn't even argue God of War, just because the one cut throughout the entire thing, the cinematic feeling of just the one cut, and everybody's performance in that was great. I think a lot of these lists, all the names, even though I would add more names because I think more games need to get kudos or whatever, but I think most of the time the games that are listed all could win, without really a huge amount of like bitching from people.
Right. All right, so moving right along. Best art direction. This one's always fun. AC Odyssey, God of War, Octopath Traveler, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Return of the Obra Dinn. So there's another indie for you.
Yeah, I mean, in this one, I think if I read the subtitle right, it adds in the word animation under the title of the award. It says like best direction. I don't know. Can you read it? Do you have it in front of you?
I have it written on paper in front of me.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you want to check.
No, that's all right. So I would say overall for me, Red Dead.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, it nails it. Like it nails a lot of that stuff. So.
For me, see, I'd probably go with Octopath Traveler. I think there's just nothing.
I haven't played
like
it, by the way.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. I've played Octopath. I put like 80 hours into it, and I think it's a art style that is a successful blend of modernization, but also evoking nostalgia and making an art style that I think will be mimicked for years to come. I just love, like, for example, because it was built with Unreal Engine 4, so I love going to a town and looking at the water, which looks real, and then seeing like the 16-bit high definition pixels. It works in a really strange manner, and it all looks great, and the particle effects are very modern, but yet the animation work is kind of like a choppy SNES game. It's odd, but it works together exquisitely well, and so for me, that's why I would get that. But I'd say second on that list would actually be, for me, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I loved its use of color. I thought they did a good job of making locations kind of pop, putting stuff in the foreground versus the background. That what you'd see when you ride your horse over the hill and you see a big city in the distance, or a town in the distance, how it looks from each and every angle, I felt was taken into consideration. There was a lot of thought into just how the game presented itself. So for me, it would probably be Assassin's Creed. But Red Dead Redemption 2, yeah, naturally, that's one that I just look at and go like, wow, I feel like I'm there. I feel like Red Dead could easily snag each of these awards because I believe, like I said, it's one of the best worlds ever made, and that's because it's a collection of every aspect being nailed graphically, aesthetically, environmentally, artistically, all that stuff. Even sound, right? And so it just does so much right. But my pick personally would definitely be Octopath Traveler. Faux show. All right, man. We are doing good here. We are doing good. Best score / music, speaking of audio: Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Ni no Kuni 2, Octopath Traveler, or Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, I listened to Celeste. Not to cut you off, I listened to Celeste while I was writing this list up, and it's really good. There's some good stuff there, and that's without knowing a thing about the game really, outside of like what type of game it is.
Just listening to the music.
Just listening, I was like, wow, imagine if I had some gameplay kind of elevating this or something along those lines, because I've heard the story for this game is actually really good, but I'd personally probably go either Red Dead or Octopath.
So you have read the games again.
Celeste, God of War, Spider-Man, Ni no Kuni 2, Octopath Traveler, and Red Dead Redemption 2.
So we talked about this in a prior podcast because I'm sort of a music fan, and like breaking these down. First of all, I have to say, I think Odyssey missed its mark. I think Odyssey should have been on this list. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I think that its music is also fantastic. God of War's is really good. But I was having difficulty remembering a lot of Red Dead's music, even right after playing it. And I remember in Red Dead 1, when you're John Marston riding towards your fate and the vocals come in, and I still remember back when it first released, people just being like, this is the greatest fucking, track I've ever heard, and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't feel that way with this Red Dead, even though I loved a lot of the music, a lot of it. That's the thing, is like, I mean, God of War is bombastic, but the weird thing is, and I was saying this earlier, I'm going to have to go back and listen prior to doing my actual awards and listen. And this is why, for some people who are watching and have seen me talk about awards on other podcasts, I am going to probably change my mind as Maddie and I talk. Like, this is because I haven't made my choice yet.
That's the thing that sucks with YouTube videos, is like people think what you're saying right now is set in stone.
Yeah, I probably should have said that at the starting.
Yeah, now they know.
Spider-Man, when you put on your boxers and you leap out of that window, it evokes the movies insanely well, like almost supernaturally well, when you swing out and the fucking crescendo starts and you're like, yep, I'm Spider-Man. Like, you're just like, I am for sure Spider-Man right now. Like, I can, in real life, I can go save
jump
people.
out my window in real life.
I could jump out my window. Luckily, I'm first story, so it wouldn't be so bad. But yeah, so it's like, I don't really have, I mean, there's times where I vacillate between for sure having a winner for this and then not. I think Red Dead will win. But I think Spider-Man, I would have to go back and verify I'm not dragging in movie moments into the game, because the music was definitely cribbed from the movie.
Right.
So I would have to go back and listen. But there are parts of Spider-Man that are epically in my brain right now, even. Which Red Dead, not so much. God of War definitely had some moments. I don't know what it was about Red Dead. It didn't like make me, it didn't just like grab me as well as the prior game did.
Right.
So it's really not an answer, because there's 3 really good answers.
So yeah, I'd pick either Red Dead or Octopath. I'll start off with Red Dead, because there are certain moments in the game that include vocal soundtracks, and I think they're fantastic and really just beautiful. And like I said, I think audio is kind of like the extra nudge each game gets to push it over the top. So you have a somber moment in Red Dead, and then they include this vocal track, and it goes from like, wow, this is great, to holy crap, okay, this is like the perfect song, this fits well, the lyrics, oh my god, this is like made for this game, this is so well directed. You know, and so there are a lot of moments like that. I also feel like that there were so many tracks, and that usually to me just signifies good audio, because it feels like every moment has a score tied to it, and that score symbolizes something. So Red Dead, it's not like this is your shootout song and this is your duel song and this is your story's getting intense song. It doesn't reuse it like often a lot of JRPGs do.
Right.
And so I really appreciate diverse, ample supplies of music. So that's why Red Dead would probably take it for me. But Octopath Traveler makes a really good case for it. And I do wish I played Ni no Kuni too, because that's a JRPG I want to get around to. I loved the first Ni no Kuni, to an extent, I should say, because I never finished it. I got like 55 hours in and then dropped it. But
oh, gotcha.
That was a younger Matthew.
Just because you were busy. Oh, gotcha.
No, that was just a younger Matthew. I think I was like 16, 17 at the time. Oh. But I really liked it. But as for Octopath Traveler, there are just, you know, it's your run-of-the-mill JRPG, so it has its peaceful tracks, it has its good battle tracks. But like I was alluding to earlier during talking about Red Dead, you'll notice that it's like, this is your sad music, you know, this is where you're supposed to be sad. This is your music for happiness, and so it can get a little, like some JRPGs, a little repetitive. So I'd probably give it to Red Dead. But Celeste, man, Celeste is got a really good soundtrack, so I'd probably put that just above Octopath just by fucking listening to it. Really good. Really good. Now we have audio design. I'm going to get a drink real quick while you give your thoughts on what you think won Best Audio Design. Okay. Black Ops 4. Forza Horizon 4. Ooh. There we go. God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, BRB. So
while Maddie's gone, I'll just say my answer's right. This is definitely wrong, whatever he says. Just joking. When it comes to sound, and I told everybody, I thought you were walking for a while, so I told everybody, I'm like, no matter what Maddie says, his answer's wrong and mine's right.
Too late.
So I think the sound in all of those games is really good. I think Forza Horizon does have a couple issues that I brought up in the review, in particular with some cars sounding alike. So it does a good job at times, but then other times you're like, it seems a little hit and miss. I would say most likely Call of Duty's going to win, because I think Call of Duty, they did nail the sound in that game. I think a lot of people like it. There's a couple guns I'm not a big fan of. I think Spider-Man's sound is really good. I think for me, it's between like God of War, Spider-Man, and Red Dead again. And the weird thing is, and this is why I'm going to have to sit and really think about this, is because I don't think any of them were perfect. And I think that but I think that whatever negatives they have aren't super negative to where I can remove one from the list. So even my own idea of which one I want to win, Red Dead has insane audio at times. Like when you turn the music down, dude, like the number of audio effects, but then it also has issues with filtering. For example, you have a fucking conversation happening 200 yards away and you can hear it. Like you're standing next to it. Like there's some errors in that. Spider-Man's got some issues as well, but I think Spider-Man really cribs well from comics and the sound you would expect. Like when you shoot that web, like it sounds right, you know? So I think Black Ops will win, but I would say, man, like, because I'm even thinking of changing my original answer that I had. Like, I don't know. I mean, Red Dead's got some insane sound. And some of the guns are fucking, like, you know, a real gun where you fire a gun and you're like, holy shit. Because people don't realize when you fire a gun, it's not fucking James Bond. It's like, it's a cacophony of sound. It's uncomfortable, right? Until you're accustomed to a weapon, it's very uncomfortable to fire a gun. And I think Red Dead comes really close. Like the first time you smoke out something and you just boom and you fire, you're all, fuck, that was loud. You know, it can be really quiet. You'll be out in the woods and that first time you fire a gun at an animal or something like that, and it's just like, and you can hear that thing echoing off the hills. So it's a tie between those. I think I still haven't made up my full choice. I think environmentally, Red Dead though is shockingly good.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, so my answer will probably will be short and sweet. But I think Spider-Man, just because I think it's fascinating, the track of audio for when he's moving and the track of audio for when he's standing still. I think that's a level of detail that was almost unnecessary. Like, they could have just been less unnecessary and more so, okay, we don't need to do this, right? Like, the game was fine. I wouldn't say without it, but like, it really added to the being Spider-Man feeling when the voice acting was still great, even while he was moving, and they added some, like, you know, like strenuous, I guess, or strain rather, to his voice. I really, really liked them doing that. Obviously, you tapped in on the intro of the game. I really liked how it kind of nailed the movies, and like you said, it was just like, I am Spider-Man. So I feel like that's the one that had the best audio design. I don't think Black Ops 4 personally was that great in that department, but I only played the multiplayer for that game, so
I just have a feeling it'll win just because it's Call of Duty, which is why I was given that answer for what I think will win. I mean, Red Dead could win, but I think a lot of people really put a lot of chops behind any Call of Duty game.
Right.
Like, I will say with Spider-Man, the number of times I was saved, and I bring this up a lot of times when I'm reviewing, but the number of times I was saved via a sound effect outside the screen was very high. And that's insanely useful for any kind of 3D fighter where they can come from anywhere. And especially Spider-Man, which those thugs can fuck off. When you're fighting those thugs and they're just coming at you, and the ability to hear them get up outside of camera range and hear like and you're all, oh, okay, he just got up. Like, I know that and then you can sort of identify how long it might take for him to get you, and they will attack you from the back. Spider-Man's got the chops when it comes to a lot of its 3D separation and how it handles.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last on the first page of notes I have written down, we have best performance. So let me apologize if I mess up anyone's name well in advance.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian Deckard as Connor in Detroit Become Human. Christopher Judge as Kratos in God of War. Melisanthe Mahut as Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Roger Clark as Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. And Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker in Spider-Man.
Go for it. You go first.
It's either Christopher Judge as Kratos or Yuri as Spider-Man. I just think they both did superb jobs. Not that none of these people did bad jobs. I think it's just easy to mix up I love this character versus I love this performance.
Right.
And I feel like as a performance, you know, Kratos has moments like in the opening of the game. This isn't a spoiler, but he kind of goes to put his hand on Atreus' back and then like takes it back, and you can hear like weakness in his voice for a second, and then like he tries to toughen up and he gets more assertive, and you can hear that from his performance. And there's just I felt like probably if I were to pick anyone, it would definitely be Christopher Judge as Kratos. But you know, like Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker, I've said for so long he's got the voice of Spider-Man, and it was just a match made in heaven, and he nailed it to a T. But probably in the terms of delivering emotions without sometimes saying anything, and when, you know, he does say something, for example, in those boat rides, he's talking with Ed.
Yeah, when he's talking with the head.
And, you know, some of his kind of, he's humorous in an unintentional way, and the audio director knows that, and the writers know that, and so it takes a great actor to kind of deliver that satire in a way that feels natural to his character. So yeah, I got to give it to Christopher Judge.
I will say I'm blown away that Detroit Become Human does not include Clancy Brown, who's probably one of the best voice actors ever, and he's, to me at least, arguably better. Nothing against Brian Deckard, but he's arguably better in Detroit by a good margin. But since he's not in there, my answer for sure is Chris Judge. I think that I liked Spider-Man. I thought it was fine. Roger Clark, I thought he was good as Arthur, but I think you and I even disagree on this. I still like John better. I don't remember if you and I have talked about it.
I kind of like him equally, honestly. I think as a character, like backstory-wise, I like Arthur more, but I think like acting-wise and how much I like them, you know, they're even for me. I don't think one's worse than the other.
But I think with Chris Judge, the subtlety of like a performance when you're not allowed to say as much as the others can extrapolate. They're allowed to fucking go off. They're allowed to like extend whatever they want to say, and there's in all these cut scenes. And half of the time, Chris Judge is just like, boy, and that's it, And you have to sort of pick up on subtle sounds. One of the best parts of that game, talked about it in the review, is when something occurs and you're scared, and Kratos is scared of somebody possibly dying or being hurt,
right?
And all you can hear is breath, and you realize it's him. And this is the first time we've heard his breath, like he's actually panic breathing. Versus, so he's not saying I am worried or I am sad or I am angry. You actually just hear breathing, and you're like, oh shit, like he's in a panic. Mm-hmm. Like you can hear somebody who's in a panic. I think he nails it. He's very good in that.
Yeah.
So for sure, Chris Judge for me.
Nice. Okay. Moving on. What do we got here? Games for Impact. This one will be particularly tough for me because I haven't played any on this list. So we have 11 Memories Retold, Celeste, Florence, Life is Strange 2 Episode 1, and The Missing, J.J. Marfield, and the Island of Memories.
I have a question for you. I didn't cover this. I have not covered this award because I'm confused by it. So, a thought-provoking game with a profound pro-social meaning. There's thousands of games that you could possibly identify with this. Mm-hmm. It's weird because I've played Life is Strange 2, so I know that one. Mm-hmm. I've played a little bit of 1111. But I don't really understand why you would say there's anything profoundly pro-social in Life is Strange 2. So that confuses me to the point of not understanding if I'm not getting their award right. So do you know what do you even have an idea of what we're supposed to take from this award?
My guess would be a story that moves you as a
feel-good story?
Moves you as a person, because like there are games with stories that'll make you cry because you're feeling for the characters, but is there a game for impact I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know if these games try to deliver on this, but a story that makes you question maybe your own beliefs, how you feel about something, how you act in a way. Can it impact you in that way? For example, for me, a good one is The World Ends With You. I always think of, I think that has one of the most powerful, it may be a flawed game in some ways, but it has a very powerful moral message tied to it once you finish it up. And I felt like that was a game for impact. I don't remember it because of its characters, or some of it partially because of its characters, but I don't remember it because of its like story more so, but the delivery of a message at the end of the game where the title made sense, the goal of the plot made sense. It all kind of comes together. So I feel like that might be what they're aiming for.
Yeah, I don't really have I don't know enough about the other games. I know Life is Strange. I would have to challenge anybody who thought, number one, that was even a good game, but number two, that it had any kind of pro-social. There wasn't really much that even really occurred in that game, so I don't really have an answer for this particular category because I don't know any. Okay, good, because I don't know any of the games on there. And I also don't know if I'm missing the entire. And somebody in the chat can certainly, post if they understand exactly, because this could be something that they've explained in the past, maybe in a past Game Awards that I just missed. But I don't really. For me, a pro-social meaning. So you were talking about that one game that you liked, and then there's like Oxenfree, which I think is trying to teach you, like you only have right now. Even though the game isn't about you only have right now, it really is trying to say, make good decisions right now. Don't let people go right now because you never know what can happen. Right. I don't consider that a pro-social message. So it's to me, it's almost like a PC award.
Could be,
if that makes sense. Like, just don't get it. I don't have any answer for that one, unfortunately.
Same.
Okay,
so we'll just move right on, and we'll talk about one that we can answer, which is best independent game. So we have Celeste, Dead Cells, Into the Breach, Return of the Obra Dinn, and The Messenger. I would easily pick The Messenger. I
haven't played any of them.
I love The Messenger. This was the game I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I said I'll get to. It's an indie game on my Game of the Year list. I love its transition between 8-bit to 16-bit art style. The writing in the game is fucking hilarious. You know, I guess it's not like the best story in the world, but the gameplay is fun. The boss fights are really challenging, but it just always called me back, and it is a really, really good indie game. Not like one of the best of all time or anything, but it's easily my favorite of this year. Granted, upon this list, I have only played Dead Cells, which I thought was great too.
Oh, I played Dead Cells. Yeah, I thought that was okay.
Yeah.
Especially
So
later.
out of all those, I'm definitely going with The Messenger. Plus, its soundtrack's cool because it also, when you go to 16-bit or 8-bit to 16-bit and back, also technically, everything changes. So the enemy design changes, the level changes, the music changes, your character's model changes. It's crazy to me, and I just thought that for an indie team, that was a good way to stand out, but it also high level of detail. It kept levels fresh. I really liked it. Only issue I really had was how it kind of directed you around the world to collect certain objects for the main story. That could be really tough for players.
I think Return of the Obra Dinn, when I was on the co-optional podcast, I think it was Dodger who played it, and she really thought that was a good game, like a very good game. And I bought it on that recommendation, and unfortunately just never got a chance to turn it on. But that's one of those games where, from what I understand, you're trying to figure out who has done particular things. It's like a whodunit, almost like a Sherlock Holmes game. That's the one I want to play the most. Dead Souls, I have a little bit of experience with. Celeste, I don't even know what that is. I have to go look. I just didn't get a chance. Into the Breach, I also don't know what that is. Messenger, I never played. So that's a hard one for me.
All right. No sweat. I mean, if you were to do this list, probably you'd put Pool Panic here.
I would put Pool Panic, and I would put The King's Bird. I think The King's Bird's probably one of the best independent games I've ever played in my life. You know, and of course not talking about older games like Oxenfree or something, but this year, The King's Bird is unbelievable.
Wow.
Like, Pool Panic is also unbelievable, but it's more of a game, if that makes sense.
It's
like
more like quirky.
Yeah, and it's more these are the gamified moments. All King's Bird has you do is try to fly through different like obstacles in a game world that's unbelievably gorgeous. And it's one of those titles where when you do well, the sense of satisfaction is almost it's almost unexplainable. I don't know how to describe it, but like, because you're flying through this beautiful place. It's like Ori. You played Ori, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Ori and the Blind Forest.
I love that game.
Yeah, so it's like Ori where you finally get past the water fucking tree level.
Yeah, where it's like coming
right?
up.
And you have that feeling of thank fucking God, but you're also like, you know, that's sort of how I felt in the King's Bird, where it wasn't overly difficult, but when you did something really well, there was a return on it, and it was just fantastic. Love that.
Good stuff. All right. So we got next best mobile game: Donut County, Florence, Fortnite, PUBG, and Reigns Game of Thrones. You play any mobile games this year? Same.
I played a ton, but none of these, dude.
I haven't played any. So
the word I heard is that PUBG Mobile is fantastic. Didn't you and I talk about this? Like, the rumor is that the mobile version of PUBG is much better than the original.
I hadn't even heard that. So
okay.
I mean,
yeah, we
can't really add much to this.
Yeah, I mean, mobile to us, I think, is more along the lines of a Switch, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I'm assuming they don't want to put a Switch game
go,
there.
that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the games I play are like choose your own adventures and shit on my mobile.
Yeah.
I'd never try graphically intensive things.
I don't even have a game on my phone. The only game on my phone that I was planning on downloading this year was fucking Elder Scrolls Blades, and that got delayed. So
that got delayed today, right?
Yeah, that got delayed as we record this. So it's like,
so I got on my phone right now. I have HeroClix. Nope, that's not even a game. That's for my collectible miniatures thing. I have two choose your own adventure games.
Really?
That's it. Text. Yeah. I love choose your own adventure games. I can play them for
the books are
fucking
great.
Yeah, that's it, man. Yeah, so unfortunately, I'm sure those are all good. Oh, I will say this. I played Donut County. Don't understand why it's on the list. I will admit that.
Really? Okay. I only saw a little bit of that, and isn't it just like trying to get everything into a specific hole, right?
Dude.
Like, you're making like a donut.
You nailed it. That's the review. I'm going to record you saying that for my review.
Perfect.
Just be like, just be like, "Sup, everybody? This is Karak, and Matty's gonna take over." And you just be like, "Isn't it just trying to get everything into a hole?" Boom, done.
Boom, ship it.
Ship it, done.
All right, we got this one. Also will be tough for me, probably more for you. Best VR/AR. Astrobot Resume Mission, or I'm sorry, am I saying it?
Rescue mission.
Rescue Mission. Yeah, my fucking handwriting, bro. Beat Saber, Firewall, 0 Hour, Moss, Tetris Effect.
First, I have to say, I'm saddened, deeply saddened. Matty has not got to experience Fallout 4 in VR. But moving on from there,
I've experienced so much Fallout 4. I just need a. I'll take
Dude,
a break from that one.
I want you to play VR because it's not amazing, but when it is, it's mind altering. Like it's like you have a lot of bad experiences, then you have that one great one. It's almost like a platform. Like remember as a kid, you'd buy like whether it be a Genesis or what have you, you get a system, and there's not the greatest games, but when you get that one, you're just like, right. Oh my fucking god. For me, it would be Moss, which is a like sort of like an action platformer with a mouse as the lead character. It's very well done. I will say that I can make a guess and say there is no chance that any other game other than Astrobot will win. And I did not feel that way when I played it. It was a great game, but Beat Saber, I think. Beat Saber, lightsabers, and music. Like,
yeah, man. Like, it reminds me of like the resurgence of Guitar Hero.
Exactly.
You know, I remember playing Guitar Hero, and then obviously it kind of, I don't want to say it got old, but like, it's Guitar Hero. It's not changing. Like, how much can you add to that? And I thought to myself, how do you like even evolve on this? And then you see Beat Saber, and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah, that's
it.
And it's lightsabers, dude. It's almost like when we originally thought Sea of Thieves would be awesome because it was pirates, and like so, like when you originally saw it, you're like, they're gonna succeed. Like this is obviously going to be the most amazing game, and it wasn't. But Beat Saber, I remember Tarmac, the YouTuber. He was all, have you played this? And I'm like, no, it's just a rhythm game. And he started sending me little snippets of his play. And you're just like, okay, that looks unbelievable. Like it looks so much fun. And I still haven't really got a chance to jump in yet. But everybody I talk to thinks Beat Saber is one of the best games, period. And I don't think people realize that game was outselling every other game on Steam.
Really?
Not just VR games, yes. It was the #1 selling game on Steam for a while, and it's a
Good
VR
for them.
game.
That's huge because we haven't seen that for VR really.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think Resident Evil, right? That would be the only one, I think.
Yeah, so that's great news then. That's honestly awesome to hear. Yeah, Beat Saber would probably be my prediction. Back to a place where we can probably get more involved. Best action game. We have Black Ops 4, Dead Cells, Destiny 2, Forsaken, Far Cry 5, and Mega Man 11.
I'll let you go first.
Oh man, you're giving me the tough one first. Yeah, out of everything here, I didn't think Far Cry 5 was that great. I have not played a lick of Destiny 2. Black Ops 4, I think, is a okay multi. I think it's. I shouldn't say okay. I'm being too negative. It's a solid multiplayer game. Dead Cells has a really good locomotion to it, and Mega Man 11 I haven't played. Geez, I got to pick between Black Ops 4 and Dead Cells. I'm probably gonna go. I don't think Black Ops 4 is like a staple best action game, even though it'll probably win it. Actually, no, I think Far Cry 5 might win it, but I'm gonna go with Dead Cells. Dead Cells is my pick. I think, you know, procedural generation never clicked well with me. I just highlighted that in my Fallout review, actually. But there's something about Dead Cells and its procedural generation
that works.
Something that works. I think it's just because it's like I said, it's a locomotive game. It's about picking up speed and go as fast as you can. Go, 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 go. So it's not like you're spending time in these procedurally generated environments and taking in the fact that like, okay, like this is, you know, this is just randomly placed here. I don't want to say it was thoughtless because I feel like that's insensitive of me and doesn't consider the development side of things. But you know, in my games, I'm a big quality over quantity. I'll take a 10-hour experience, very focused, versus 30 hours of procedurally generated houses that I can explore.
Yep.
I'm looking at you, We Happy Few.
That exactly. Thank you. That's what I was going to mention if you didn't mention it. Like,
yeah, but yeah, there's something about Dead Cells, and I think it's just its pace. So I'll pick that. What about you?
Well, first of all, I want to ask you, so you're like me where these games aren't on your list. Is there an action game that you would have liked to have seen?
I gotta go through them all in my head now. Hey, does Dragon Ball Super count as a action game?
Dragon Ball Super or not Dragon Ball Fighters, right?
Yeah, I was making
that's
a joke.
in the list.
I was making
later.
a joke. Honestly, I haven't played it, but I know if I did play it, I'd be more in line to say like something like Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Thank you.
You know, I feel like that would be a pretty easy pick. Because that fits like the mold, right, of like action adventure.
And is not on any of these lists, by the way, which is a fucking crying shame. I brought this up originally. I can't believe Kiwami 2 is not on. It probably because it's a remake, right? That's probably why. Shenmue 1 and 2 aren't on the list. That makes sense because they're not really great and they're older and they're a little crunchy.
Crunchy is
I'm being nice, right? I'm massaging the word crunchy.
And I like those games too. And like,
I know you do.
I was like, fucking hell, man. I must have been in some nostalgia tube. Holy shit.
And dude, you and I, people don't realize, not only did we play those games when it came out, but we fucking dug those games.
Love them.
Like, it wasn't just like, and it's not like they magically made the controls worse. They were that way. And we just were like, yep, still great. Still awesome. On this list, I'm going to tell you right now, Far Cry 5 shouldn't be on the list. I would say Destiny. I'm not saying Destiny's going to win. I was just going to bring up that regardless of any hatred toward Destiny, I think shooting is usually very satisfactory in those games, if not actually quite enjoyable. Like just the feeling of impact in those games. So I would say I can see people choosing that. I think Black Ops, to be honest. I mean, Far Cry 5 may, but I don't remember other people's scores compared to mine. I had to wait for a sale on that. I had some issues with the guns, issues with the action. Co-op was fun, but I don't think that's a crutch for a game. We talked about this last podcast. Like, is it fun with friends? Anything can be fun with friends. Picking out human shit out of a gutter can be fun with friends, maybe. Far Cry 5, though, was a blast in co-op, but it wasn't a blast because the game was good or deserved an award. It was a blast because I enjoyed gaming with friends.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dead Cells, I think, also could win it, right? Because I think of all these games, there's probably a lot of like push for Dead Cells to win. I could see that winning, actually.
You know, that's the thing is I feel like people will look at the list and go like, oh, Call of Duty, mainstream, probably biggest title there next to Far Cry 5. Yeah, probably that. But because of the whole Philip Mewson thing, I feel like Dead Cells just kind of got put on the map with the mainstream and just so many people know about it, so many more people tried it, which, like, I made a video talking about kind of like how I feel like that kind of, you know, as a developer, I imagine that kind of sucks having that association. Like, Dead Cells, oh, that game, like, you know, great game, but, you know, here's the situation it's tied to. But I'm sure it put it in the minds of a lot more gamers, and in turn, it has a chance at some of these awards. So, yeah. Let's write down a timestamp. Best action adventure. See, I don't know why. Sometimes the Game Awards always does this, though. They do, like, best action game and then best action adventure game. I'm like, motherfucker, what? So, and what's hilarious, this list is completely different. There is not a single fucking carryover. Okay, so we got AC Odyssey, God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead Redemption 2, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And I almost want to skip this because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, what? All these are open world games except for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is semi-open, kind of hub-based.
Yeah, for sure. Didn't even think about that. Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. I mean, I think all of them could win too, right? Wouldn't you agree? Like, I mean, maybe Shadow because it didn't. We thought it did well. We had some data that it did well, and then there was other further data that the data we thought it did well was like only a snippet, and maybe it didn't. All this crazy shit. Yeah, I still don't even know how Shadow of the Tomb Raider did. Overall, I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey could win, and I think I would love to see it win because, dude, it's in the list, which is incredible. Like, it's in a list with Spider-Man. It's in a list with Red Dead. Like,
that's a great game, man. It's up there. It's up there. Like I said, I had my issues, but it's world space and its interconnection of activities It's great. For me though, like my wait for a sale was like I think I said $45. Like it was nothing crazy. Like you wait
Yeah,
a
it was
month
not. It wasn't half.
yeah, you wait a month, you get it like
Yeah.
during Black Friday, like that kind of thing. If I were to, man, see this is what's tough is because like obviously I read that, but like you know, I I feel like what fits the title best is Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yes, right.
I feel like out of all these games here, that's action adventure. Maybe you know what? God of War. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, God of War. That's what I'm gonna go with. Yeah, because like it was, you know, because I just made the same argument for Tomb Raider. Like it's not open; it's like semi-open, and I think God of War is kind of that same way. It's like semi-open.
Very much so.
It's constructed in like little segments, and like you said, it's one continuous experience. So I'm gonna go with that. God of War for sure. It's a great game. That's one I want to go back to because, you know, all these other games stuck with me really well. And then there's God of War, which, like, I really like. It's on my Game of the Year list. It's in my top 5. But I think the others are just so... I love them so much that it's like God of War, which I like a lot, kind of gets, like, minimalized a bit for me.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, let's take a look at... one category that just pisses me off, and I'll explain why in a second.
Well, I have a question real quick
go on.
For you. So I apologize.
No, you're good.
Do you think Shadow of the Tomb Raider has any chance of winning? Here's the reason why. Darksiders was, I feel, shipped out to die. I also feel Shadow of the Tomb Raider almost felt the same way. Its
like
release date was weird. Yeah, and I personally liked it a lot. I know you didn't like the ending, I think. Did we talk about this?
Shadow of the Tomb Raider?
Am I going crazy? I thought for some reason you were the one.
I didn't like the ending of the first Tomb Raider. That's what it was. The first Tomb Raider.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah, Shadow I liked mostly.
Do you think there's any chance of Shadow even? It's being overshadowed. To use a horrible pun. I mean, do you think there's any chance that wins? Any chance?
See, the way I kind of gauge in our little space a game's popularity, obviously we look at reviews, and then I kind of take a look at social media because everyone's always sharing games of what they're playing. Spider-Man literally fucking took over Twitter for like a goddamn month.
It did. It was insane.
So it's another way to gauge it. Obviously in our YouTube space, our Twitch space, we can see, you know, who's playing what's sticking with gamers the longest. And I felt like with Tomb Raider, I saw like launch week.
Yep.
Some funny pictures of like the old Tomb Raider model being in these highly detailed cutscenes.
Yep.
And that was kind of it, you know. It wasn't like anyone was highlighting. Like there's one moment in the story, I won't spoil it, but she kind of, you'll know what I'm talking about. She rises from the water and there's like fire in the background, and I thought that had to be, out of all the games I played, this had to be one of the most epic fucking moments in a game. And like no one talked about that. I thought that the game had a lot of good moments, but on the other hand, you know, we're talking action adventure. How much action did Tomb Raider?
Very little.
Yeah.
Dude, she killed them all in Rise, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that, right? Isn't that what happened? All the bad guys died in Rise, so only 6 fucking dudes were in this. And what's funny is when you get all the combat, and you're like, and you go into the mud, and your face is covered in mud, and you're like, oh yeah! And then you're at the end of the game before you know it, and you're all, oh, I killed like 4 dudes. What the fuck is happening? So, I killed more creatures than people.
Yeah, shot more animals.
Yeah, shot more animals than people.
It's a shame. But, yeah, in answer to your question, like, I kind of, like, want to pull for it as the underdog, and I feel like it fits the category well, but there's just so much working against it. It's just, I don't think it's realistic.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, this category that really did just bug me, and I'll get into why. Karak, I think you'll know it once I list the entries. You'll be like, oh,
I already know. Yep.
Dragon Quest XI, Monster Hunter World, Ni no Kuni 2, Octopath Traveler, and Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire.
Oh, and this is for what category? You forgot to read the
RPG.
category.
Best RPG.
Best RPG.
Yeah. Karak, why am I mad?
I would, if you're anything like me, first of all, you're mad Monster Hunter's on there. I could be wrong, but
no, I don't.
Okay, I can't figure out. I mean, rich player customization makes sense in their subtitle, but I never think of role playing with Monster Hunter. That's the first thing. Also, no, that's what I thought you were going to say. Okay. I'll stick with that. Overall, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Okay.
What do you have to add?
Vampire. Like a
Oh,
game.
for fuck's sake! I forgot. Oh my god, why is
Right?
it not on there, Matty?
I have no idea, bro. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, the game that, like, out of all these titles, actually tried to be like a choice, consequence RPG.
God.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey is in there. I'm like, okay, that's an RPG. Like, I was like, what the fuck is with this list?
Pillars of Eternity 2 is in there, and I'm going to be honest, Vampire is got much more choice. Oh, man, dude. That's a mind. I got to make a note of that because I talked for an hour about this recently, and I never even mentioned that.
Yeah, dude, Vampire's in my top 3. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a good RPG, it's not like the best thing in the world. Really, the ending kind of boils down to 4 outcomes, but there's a lot of control over how people interact with you, how districts end up,
how you get to the 4.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. How you get to the 4. And some fans, respectfully so, I totally get why, took issue with it kind of being, basically you can get to the bad ending by killing a lot of people or the good ending by killing no one. It was less who you killed and how many you killed. Fans took issue with that. Totally get why, because it's less of significance on your actions. Totally get it. But for the fucking developer who did this, with the publisher they did it with, and the budget they did it within, I mean, it is... Oh my gosh. And the combat, underrated. Just everything about this game. I'm adding my fucking own entry of Vampire. Not that anything on this list doesn't deserve to really be there. I have not played Pillars, and I have not played Ni no Kuni. Well, fuck, I haven't even played Dragon Quest 11, but I've heard a lot of good things about 11. I like Monster Hunter World a lot. Ni no Kuni 2 is a JRPG. I just feel like anything with a leveling system kind of got thrown on this list.
I think so too, yeah.
Anything with like progression.
But yeah, no, Vampire takes it for me. Like I would say, man, yeah, wow. I don't know how, as much as I fucking jack off Vampire, I'm blown away that I've never even, I think somebody mentioned it one time, and it was in the action game discussion, or maybe as action adventure, because that's sort of also what it could have been in. But goddamn, Vampire's good.
So good. Okay, we got to pick one though. What almost said what you picking. What are you picking?
For what out of this list, what I like the most, or what I think will win? Which one?
I guess both, right? Like what first? What are you gonna pick out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 selections here?
So my personal choice would be. So I hate that Monster Hunter's in this list, but I'll allow it. I would say Pillars of Eternity 2 and Monster Hunter World are both pretty high on my list for what should win. Probably sticking with Pillars because something about Monster Hunter doesn't feel right in a role-playing. Oh, they include massively multiplayer experiences. That's what they say in the subtitle.
What?
So this is an MMO game. Okay. Monster Hunter World, then.
Okay.
Going by theirs, not yours and mine. You and I, if we were doing our own videos, yeah. So Monster Hunter World. Because that's what I played, by the way. Right. And Pillars. I haven't played the others.
See, with these JRPGs, they always have like great stat systems, leveling up systems, usually based off gear, accessories, spells, all that stuff. It's progressional, but it's not like role playing. And nothing.
Well, that's the difference, right? It's you and I are big fans, I think, of ROLE role as well as ROLL. But I think at some point you need to separate them because some of these games, like Monster Hunter, there's no ROLE role in Monster Hunter at all. Like you're all sort of the same. You're the amazing monster hunter, and that's it. And your name is one thing, my name is another.
Right.
I think that's the big problem with us is we sort of. These guys at least sort of smashed it all together.
See, I would have I love the game, but I would have taken Octopath out of this and tossed in Vampire easily.
Me too.
Hey man, I love Obsidian. I haven't even. I'm circling all my selections on my paper, by the way, so I can look at the end and see how many I predict. I'm going Pillars of Eternity too.
Okay.
Team Obsidian. Just because, I haven't played Dragon Quest. I don't think Monster Hunter is really an RPG in any sense of how I defined one, where I would give it an award. I think it's a fantastic game. I get why some people love it. I put, I think, 75 hours into it or something like that. I really liked it. Ni no Kuni 2 haven't played. Octopath Traveler, kind of run-of-the-mill JRPG, and so that leaves me with Team Obsidian. So that's what I'm doing.
They did I think the cool thing about Monster Hunter World, I think you said this, but they finally made Monster Hunter accessible to everybody.
Absolutely.
So I can see why that's on the list, just for the pure accessible. It's just accessible now. Somebody can look at it and go, I actually know what Monster Hunter is, much easier than prior to that. Because even I had an issue. Right. And I played 1 or 2 games, and I was like, I'm not 100% sure I even know what this is. So.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys. Sorry.
No problem. Best fighter is next. We have BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, DB Fighters, Soul Cal 6, and Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition.
Dude, it's so one-sided for me. Dragon Ball is so much better than the rest of the games, in my personal opinion, that I couldn't even understand how they got on there. I would rather choose independent titles. And I didn't like Soul Calibur. I finally played it.
Really? Okay.
And I know you did. I think it was a little bit too whatever. It didn't look the greatest. I think graphically I was hoping it looked a little better. But Dragon Ball looks good. New people can play it. People who are really good can play it. I don't know the online system and where it is now. You usually know that better than me. So I can't tell you, like, if a new person can jump into online and wouldn't feel terrible.
It's really tough because, like, all right, so when they re-released Dragon Ball FighterZ for the Switch, I wanted it for my Switch, but I was also curious, like, okay, what is it like for a newcomer? And sadly, I had to be that guy who came in who I have, like, hundreds of matches played on Dragon Ball FighterZ on my PS4, but on my Switch, I'm 0-0, so, like, I'm going in with people who are brand new, or at least I assumed. I'm, like, thinking, are other people picking up the game? What's the low-level player like? And it's you can still enter and learn the game with people of your skill level. It's once you get to a certain point in the matchmaking cycle for that game that they kind of start, like, throwing you in, because it's all based off BP, battle points, and you'll start matching up. It's like once you hit the 300,000, it's like you'll just start getting matched up with people in, like, the 500, 600,000, and then your BP, and, like the BP levels that you're close with, like, are noticeably more intense matches compared to sometimes, like, the people who are in the 500,000s are just, like, you know, way better than you. There's, like, a big difference in skill, which is for me why there's a trophy tied to the 520,000 BP rank. And, like, I remember I was, like, highest of, like, 509k. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get this, and it's just, like, in that 500,000 range, it's fucking grindy, because it's like everyone's it's hard to match up with your skill level. So initially, you play usually people of the same skill level. My pick, obviously, right there with you, Dragon Ball FighterZ. It's not even close. I thought Soul Cal was okay. I am not good at Street Fighter at all, nor do I have any interest in it, so I can't really comment on that. And BlazBlue, there are a few games that disappointed me more in that game. I get if you like it. I think it's just nice fan service, and I expected, like, a more deep fighter, and it just felt very button mashy, and I did not like that at all. Just a lot of auto combos.
Another reason why I think Dragon Ball probably for me worked is because the last one I reviewed was one of my popular reviews where it was 3D Worlds. I can't remember which one it was, but it was like a 360 game. It was like
probably Ultimate Tenkaichi or something like that.
Yeah, or something like that. And I remember
that one was awful.
I remember. Well, no, this one I liked, so I don't remember. And it got really good reviews. I can't remember.
What Battle Z.
Yeah, Battle Z. I think it was Battle Z. And but where you could
wait,
like
hold on, I'm an idiot. I'm thinking so far back. Oh my God, Xenoverse. Jesus.
Xenoverse. Thank you. That is what it is. Xenoverse. So I'm always fucked up with my names on this. So there's too many Z's. So, I was surprised by Fighters because I didn't know how I was going to like switching back to the 2D plane. To be honest, I was unsure of, like, you know, you go 2D, 3D. Even Street Fighter tried 3D, didn't work out for them. So it's like there's this huge leap of, like, how is it going to work? And I think Dragon Ball FighterZ, dude, it was ignoring the story, which or at least I hated. Having to hit the A button to skip through everybody's narrative. The actual gameplay in that is fucking fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it is fun to me. And I think that the others, Soul Calibur was fun. I'll give it that. I never tried BlazBlue. I thought it did really well, though. Blaze Blue.
Probably. I mean, it had Persona in it. It had Ruby in it. It had. Oh my God.
What did you feel then when you said shallow? You just felt like they didn't mix in enough of the personality of every show?
No, they did a really good job with that. There's a lot of personality ingrained in the game. It was more so. And this is going to sound stupid for a second, so hear me out, because Dragon Ball FighterZ has auto combos, but I do not like this wave of games including auto combos. It's actually one of the reasons I do appreciate NetherRealm games, because it's not you can just mash square and put something together. And yes, if you are good at the game, you can absolutely take down anyone who tries to auto combo you. It's just I kind of miss, maybe this is old school of me, so you let me know, be real with me. I just miss fighters that were like, okay, you may suck at first, but fucking learn the game, and I promise you, you will not be that bad. But instead, we're substituting that with auto combos. You got SoulCal 6 with this move that lets you like clash with people by hitting R1 instead of blocking. You hit R1 and you clash, and it's a rock paper scissors battle, which adds a little bit of tension at times. But most times, it's like, Jesus Christ, I can't get the ball rolling here, because they're trying to even the playing field, and obviously anyone with a high skill level knows how to abuse what is supposed to be a mechanic for a lower level player. And I'm not specifically talking about that when it comes to, or I'm not specifically talking about the I can't think of the name right now, but the clash mechanic in Soul Calibur.
I think it is the clash mechanic, isn't it? Because I just played that. I'm almost sure that's what it's called.
All right, so maybe that's what it is. But it's just, for me, I miss just picking up the fighter, you know, learning the characters, going in the training mode, you know, maybe some arcade mode to learn some of the combo modes for them, and fill yourself in on the character, and then kind of going online and duking it out there. But Blaze Blue kind of just like punctuates like, okay, it's personality first, which is fine. It does a good job with that. And it not that it's a fighter second, but it just so many auto combos, and like, it's not like Dragon Ball where it's like, okay, you can mash square, or you can go square, square, low triangle, mid triangle, jump triangle, down heavy, and like get like a 16-hit combo on your opponent if you keep mixing it up, where it encourages you to think about what you're inputting. So with Blade Blue, it's more of a square, square, triangle, triangle, and then like circle, circle. You know, like I'm saying, it's very simplistic in nature. That doesn't change that, you know, if you're good at fighting games, you'll be good at Blade Blue, and you'll beat someone who's bad at fighting games. That's always tried and true of a fighter game. But it's just, I am not a fan of just like trying to make it super accessible while sacrificing what the title is supposed to be, which is a fighter.
Dude, I still think that they're making them super accessible like that. Even Dragon Ball, I feel that the auto combo system is in place of meat that they need to put into the games that they don't want to, which is why I think Injustice worked, because the meat was the story and the mode and the desire for you to continue playing through. There wasn't an there wasn't a need for people to feel good right away. It was like, oh, you can get good as you continually play. But I think with like,
there's enough single player content.
Yeah, because there was enough content and meat. And I think for me, the auto combo is there because these companies aren't putting that other stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, this person wants to jump in right away, we're going to have an auto combo. Instead of, this person wants to jump in right away, we're going to have these cool ladder matches, or fucking towers in Mortal Kombat, where like, remember, you'd fight the tiers, and it worked. I mean, they do have that, but it's in a desire to be accessible to everybody, that it's like there's so many options that sometimes you realize there isn't a lot of meat. It's just, oh, you can do this.
And Dragon Ball FighterZ is guilty of being a little thin on content, but they actually just added in a patch this week a new tournament mode, and it's like 70 different types of tournaments, and they all have like different, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a more sophisticated word of saying it, but pretty much like there are different
restrictions,
I guess. But yeah, like, you know, Team Yamchas, or like low health, or fast movement, something like that. Kind of taking a page from the Soul Cal book with the story mode, where you know, some levels are icy, so your characters just glide everywhere and stuff along those lines. So yeah, for me, Dragon Ball FighterZ though, for sure. Circle that bad boy. Okay, we got ourselves best family game. As family men, I'm sure we can really hash this one out. Mario Tennis. Wait, Mario. Sorry. Mario Tennis Aces. My girlfriend says Mario, and it fucks me up because
So does mine.
Yeah, so I'm just like Mario. Nope, Mario. Tennis Aces, Nintendo Labo, Overcooked 2, Starlink Battle for Atlas, and Super Mario Party.
Dude, like, this is not my field. I would say, and I've played 3 of these. I would say Starlink, Battle for Atlas should not win anything. And if anybody doesn't agree with me, I don't know. I'm surprised. Dude, that game is as mediocre as humanly possible. It should just be called average. I would say probably Super Mario Party will win. Wouldn't you? Because that seemed to gather the most. Maybe Overcooked. Overcooked gathered some whatever PR.
I haven't played Super Mario Party. I want to, but I played Tennis Aces a lot, and that really got my friends and I around the TV playing against each other in tournaments. Got my family. But I played Overcooked 2 with my girlfriend, and that was so much fun. Especially because we were like, competing in it, and she's a very competitive person, so I felt that kind of brought out a really funny side of her. I would probably go with Mario Tennis, though. I feel like that one, that literally brought my family together who never plays fucking games, and that brought my friends together who, we're usually like, all right, well, we'll see you online.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'm going to go with Mario, personally. Mario Tennis Aces, rather. Are you going with anything on this list, or are you just like, nope, not me?
Like I said, I think the only one I can really come up with would be like Overcooked or Super Mario Party, just from what I've heard. Okay. Overcooked 2, a lot of people like. I know that for a fact. But I would just assume the one that will win is Super Mario Party. But that's just because I think that's what I've heard. I've heard that name more than the others, if that makes sense.
Right.
As something people are enjoying.
Gotcha. Okay, last one on the second page. We're nearing the end here. Best strategy games. So I haven't played any of these. This might be more of your field because I believe you reviewed some of these.
Yeah.
Banner Saga 3, Battletech, Frostpunk, Into the Breach, and Valkyria Chronicles 4.
You haven't played Valkyria Chronicles, huh? I thought that would be up your alley.
I played the first, the remaster of the first one, and it absolutely is up my alley. I got offered a review code, and I was, what was I busy reviewing? I think I was busy reviewing Assassin's Creed, because this is a game that came out in October, right?
Yeah, it was, actually, because you and I talked on DMs, and you were like, yeah, dude, they sent me one, but I just don't have the ability. Because I was telling you, people on my Discord were saying it was, really good. And
it's apparently very good, and I really do want to get around to playing it. But have you played any of these?
Yeah, I've played 3 of them, Frostpunk, Battletech, and the Banner Saga, and with no hesitation, Banner Saga 3. Holy shit.
I've heard
my
really
favorite
good things
Banner
about
Saga, Austin Wintory's soundtrack. Frostpunk was cool, but I found that everybody I talked to made the same choices. So it pretends to have a ton of choice, but then everybody you talk to does the same things because the rewards are usually in line with what you need to do. So it's almost like saying, if you want to walk to work, you can, but you can also drive, and you need to be there in 12 minutes. And you're all, well, okay, I guess I'm driving. Like, it's sort of like some of those decisions. Yeah. Now, admittedly, some of the decisions in Frostpunk are hilarious, like burning old people for fuel. That cracks me the fuck up because it's very dark, dude.
That's crazy. I've never heard
child slavery, fucking burning old people for fuel, all these crazy things.
Jeez.
But yeah,
I gotta look this up. That sounds weird.
You might like it, actually. Banner Saga 3, though, console, PC, doesn't matter, Switch, like turn-based, fairly simple game with only one real mechanic that adjusts things, which I really liked. So it was more about like where I lined people up and how I went about attacking people, and then you have this ability to sort of overpower your attacks. Yeah, Banner Saga, without a shadow of a doubt. Game is good.
Banner Saga is on Switch?
Yeah, Banner Saga 3 is on Switch, PC, and PS4.
Holy crap, Banner Saga Trilogy is on the Switch. What the fudge?
Yep, and you can get, I was going to say, you can get the trilogy for very cheap, from what I understand. Or at least...
Yeah, $50 for all 3 games. It's available now?
Yeah, it's been I did the review like 2-3 months ago. It's a very good game. But you're talking...
Wow.
You said you're not going to do a shit ton of reviews this month. It would be a good game for that, let me tell you. Because the cool thing about that game is you can walk away from it, like, you can walk away from it and come back without like losing your ability to play.
I really want to go out and buy that right now. Holy fuck.
It's awesome.
Because my friend Vinny has been really talking it up because he just finished the second one.
Oh, did he?
How long are these games?
That's the thing. Anywhere from, depending on the difficulty, 8 to 12, and then it can be a little longer. It can be, I don't think any shorter, but about 8 to 12 and then up to 16, just depending on what you do.
Right.
But the cool thing about it is, dude, like your main character can die. I mean, big shit can happen in the story. Big characters can do stuff, and it'll have that moment where you see a choice. And I've said this before in reviews, and Vampire in particular, you know, the best
Which is also
to me,
coming to Switch.
Which is also coming to Switch. Cannot believe that technically. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's going to be a mess.
Dude, it's going to be a mess.
Oh, my God.
But what choice do you make when every choice hurts, as Stephen King once wrote? And that's what happens in Banner Saga. You're sitting there going, fuck, are you kidding me? About every 45 minutes. And it's not where you're like, they're forcing me. It's where the attrition of what's going on in the game world just has this shit happen. Like, you never go, I'm being forced to make a choice between blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Instead, you really are, just because the overarching narrative is so fucking dark. I mean, it is dark as hell. So you gotta make sure you're taking some uppers while you're playing that, because it can depress you, dude.
Wow. Okay.
You'll like it. You should check it out.
I absolutely will.
Or borrow it from Vinny, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Banner Saga 3 is the selection. All right, we're nearing the end here. This is always fun. Karak, I can already make the selection for you on this one.
Yeah.
Best sports / racing: FIFA 19, Forza Horizon 4, Mario Tennis Aces, NBA 2K19, PES 2019. What's your selection?
First of all, can I say, this shows you how brain dead these guys are that FIFA 19's on here. That NBA 2K19, actually, I think that one improved on 2K18. But I'm blown away FIFA's
I'm just
on
happy NHL is not on there, because NHL
Dude, it's a casino, though.
15
is a casino, or FIFA is a casino. That's all it is. It's just for microtransactions. It's a front end for them to get you to pay. But yeah, Forza.
Yeah.
Like, without
absolutely.
You really got to play that, dude.
Yeah, I haven't even played it, and I'm circling it, because it's like, dude, you know, Mario Tennis Ace is a good time, but like, now that they did sports / racing, it's like, okay, Forza.
Hey, on Mario, can you play 4-player, or is that 2-player? Can you double up?
Yeah, you can play
doubles.
You can play 4, so you can have like someone in the front, someone in the back, someone in the front, someone in the back on both sides, and you and your friends can all play against each other. It gets a little crowded, but actually
can't be as crowded as Smash is going to be.
You know what? Hold on. Now, I might have just imagined that in my head, because I've only played 1-on-1. I might be wrong on that. I might be wrong on that. I don't want to say that for sure. All right. That's our best sports / racing game. And then we've got, what do we have here? Best multiplayer game: Black Ops 4, Destiny 2, Forsaken, Fortnite, Monster Hunter World, and Sea of Thieves. Wow. Sea of Thieves making an appearance in the late game. Fuck. I'm probably going to go with Monster Hunter World. That's just, it's about the only game on that list that, you know, I should rather tell that with a story. I remember the first time I booted up Monster Hunter World, and you're in that first, like, biome, and you're discovering the world, you're tracking down your first monster, and it would, like, hit you that, wow, anything can happen, and not only is there's, like, dynamic nature to the game, but you can experience that with friends. So when we're all looking for this low-level first boss of the game, and then we turn the corner, and there's, like, a Anjanath just standing there, and we're like, oh fuck, and like we're like, oh, it didn't see us, so let's just run the other way. And like I rotate the camera, and there he is, like just running right behind us. It was something out of a fucking movie. It was incredible, and that's like my favorite moment from that game. And the fun just kind of continued on, where that had to be probably my favorite multiplayer game of the year. It's hilarious though that, you know, if Bethesda didn't botch a launch, they could be in a lot of these categories, like multiplayer for sure. That's, you know, it's crazy that Fallout's that bad, right? That like a multiplayer game from a AAA developer didn't make it onto the best multiplayer game list. Yeah. Insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What would you pick?
So Monster Hunter World, I also have a story. We were playing, and to me, the best part of Monster Hunter is actually the interaction of the monsters without you, or at least if you like are there, and that there was an Anjanath and then the flying dragon one. I can't remember his name. He was
starts with an R.
He was kicking our ass, Ragashi or something like that. He was kicking our ass. The Anjanath was, and we were running, and we ran around the corner, and there's this one like area that goes up, and there's a big nest, and it was there, and it flew down and killed it for us, and we were just like, yes, like it was that moment where, and then we started doing that all the time. We were like, oh shit, let's lead him over. And then, you know, even in single player when I was playing on my own and doing the review, it was like you could start doing all these cool interactions where, like, if you weren't prepared to fight a bad guy and the bad guy was there, you could say, oh, I'm going to rush him back. I'm going to lead him back to this other bad guy, get them fighting, then run off, right? Because sometimes trying to run from one of those fuckers is actually hard because your stamina. And me, I'm bad with, I'm always wearing the heaviest shit. Like, that was just sort of the way I played. What weapons did you use? What were you? No shit.
So, like, just stab.
That's too hard for me.
Stab, slash, boom. It just
way too
felt
hard
so
for
fun.
Me.
Or I remember using the daggers a lot, obviously, because there were specific names for them, so I apologize to the Monster Hunter community as I proceed to botch them. But there was like this one sword that was more like a samurai blade, and you had some. My friend always described it as you could do anime moves with it. Yeah, and he wasn't wrong because it was actually like very stylistic. It was and the animation was smooth. It was really cool. There was some type of dual blade, or it might have been the daggers. And in Monster Hunter World, there was we were hunting the weird. I'm just going off with these terms right now. This electric unicorn. I think it was called a Kirin or a Kirjin.
Yeah, I know the creature you're talking about.
And I started sliding down a hill, and the thing's like at the base of the hill. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm going like head first into this very hard creature to kill, by the way. And I lock onto it, and I jump, and I'm like, well, it's a video game, and I hit the attack button, and my character does this like spinning wheel attack, and I just run up the whole body and like broke off its tail at the end. The game is just loaded with moments like that where I was like, what the fuck did I just do?
Or that first time you grab onto one.
Oh my gosh.
You're on top of them, and then like if you have a friend there. I was a big hammer fan because when you're by yourself, some of the enemies can definitely be hard. And so it was like the hammer, the one thing the hammer did was it would stun them easier. And then you could sort of like heal up or what have you. And I always bounced around weapons for the test, but I always came back to the hammer because I would knock them out, and my friends, I would get up on top of it, whack it. Because the one thing I had a problem with was the pufferfish bat, the bat guy. He looks like a bat. He's in the purple lands. I think he's the third lands you go to.
Oh, jeez.
And they go like, shh, and then he's like, rah, and he does the sonic attack, and he can puff up like a pufferfish. And my friends and I would gather around, and he had a lot of cool attacks that just for whatever reason I wasn't the best at timing. And I remember like the first time leaping on the back of those different creatures and being like, this is the shit.
Some of those creatures also very lifelike. It was very impressive for a multiplayer game, kind of unlike anything we've seen before. And like you said, you couple that in with like the interactions that they'd have. Like sometimes they'd fight each other, or at times they'd interact and kind of look like a family. And you're like, do I really like want to disturb what this family is doing for this hunt, or do I leave and come back later? That type of stuff, man. It's just astounding that they managed to accomplish that.
I would say I do want to give a shout out to Sea of Thieves, even though I'm not a fan right now. From what Silver, one of my podcasters, told me about, they've added NPC battles, which was, in my review, one of the big negatives I had for that game, was there were no person versus NPC ship battles at all. They didn't even occur. And from what I understand, that's added, and a bunch of other content is added. So to me, Sea of Thieves, despite you and I not being in love with it, we already know that it did them insanely good business. Like, Game Pass has been quite open about how successful Sea of Thieves is. So I will say I could see that winning, because you and I have an echo chamber of ourselves and then our fans who all know what we think about it. But there's a contingent out there, obviously, who are huge Sea of Thieves fans. So I could see that winning.
See, I always am curious to get people's thoughts on this. Do you think it's going to be like that with Fallout? Because that's one I'm very unsure of, and I can't hear enough opinions about, like, do you think it's going to bounce back? If so, is it going to be like a Sea of Thieves bounce back? Is it going to be like an Elder Scrolls Online bounce back? It's something I always endlessly wonder since it launched. I'm like, man, obviously they're going to try to bounce back. How do they do it? Because they're like, millions of people are playing and sharing their experience. I think Bethesda wrote that in their recent patch update, like millions of players. It's like, okay, obviously a lot of people bought it. Are a lot of people playing it? And if so, is it like Sea of Thieves where people are just going to stick with it? And there's us on me on the outside, rather, I should say, because you got informed, but me on the outside who hasn't heard word of Sea of Thieves or any crazy updates that have come out. But yet you're telling me here, like, yeah, they've had NPC battles, they've had this, that, and it's turning more into the game that people wanted it to be.
Here's the problem, though, Matty. I don't know, and this is something you would have to answer because you spent way more time in Fallout 76 than I did. I spent about 4 fucking total hours, and I never want to go back.
Yeah, nice 70 to 80 hours for me if you include the beta.
Nice 70 to 80. So the difference I can say that I am hearing from people is that when Sea of Thieves came out, there was no mechanical problems. As in, the gameplay-wise and how it all worked, there were no real issues there. It was content. The difference that I am reading even in your Discord from, I would consider, some pretty diehard Bethesda fans, is that there are some very, very basic problems in that game.
Yeah.
Low level, how the fuck do we fix it without this, huge mushroom effect of everything
the whole
else.
Game, right?
Right. And I know, especially your channel, you started, and a lot of the people are Bethesda fans. So it's difficult to admit it, but I think that at its core, it has more fundamental problems with its game mechanics than a Sea of Thieves or even, yes, I'm going to say this, a No Man's Sky. I think No Man's Sky didn't deliver, but it didn't have the core problems that we're seeing a lot of people talk about with 70s.
That's the thing, is because I don't want to get too wrapped up in myself and how I think, because I completely agree. I think a lot of people have hit on the bugs, the glitches, and I made sure in my review to go in on that. But I was also like, a big part of the issue with Fallout 76 is like, hey, this game's storytelling is not good. You can't just patch that. The gunplay is very clunky. You can't just patch that. The writing is not that great. You can't patch that. And so that's why I like to ask people, I'm like, do you think it bounces back, and if so, how? Right? And it's like, do they take a Far Harbor approach, like where Fallout 4 was, okay.
That's a good point.
It wasn't a role-playing game, so they literally take all the feedback and say, like, here you go. Here's a new location, and it includes the stuff you asked for, and there was more role-playing elements, and there were factions, and there was choice and consequence.
Yeah, I like the Far Harbor is a really good example of a game that turned itself around, because I think a lot of people weren't fans of Fallout 4, but were great fans of Far Harbor. Absolutely. Like, I mean, I just knowing... So. I was going to say, I think even yourself, the level of Far Harbor is a pretty big jump between like what you felt in Fallout 4. I certainly think it could come back. I do believe, though, that all the other stuff has become such an issue. So the people I talk to don't follow you, don't follow me. There's sort of a separate life I lead doing some other stuff. And those people do not like Fallout 76. Right. As gamers. So these are generic gamers, I would consider, the most of them. They'll like what's good or what is perceived as good, so maybe a Fortnite or something like that. But even they feel that, like the one guy who I just was teaching him, and he was like, dude, there's few games in the world so basic as Fallout 76. Like, he was like, it feels like a skeleton. There's almost nothing there. It feels like skeleton story-wise. Feels like a skeleton overall mechanics-wise. They love the perks, by the way. Everybody I know, whether there's like Grim in your Discord, whether he wants them fixed, he made a whole tier list and he wants stuff fixed. But I think the big thing is their perks. I think the perks, it lit people on fire mentally. Like Grim was coming up with perks. He's like, you'd have a perk that does this and a perk and call it this. That to me is where Bethesda has a lot of strength and can fix if they can get somehow those people with those good ideas and tell the developers to create them. Yeah. And I don't know if that can happen.
I'm infinitely curious about this second life you lead.
Oh, well, I've pretty much told you a lot of it, but a lot of it's either volunteer teaching. and a lot of it's with youth. And so, you know, and then a lot of my friends, just because I joke, I think I get people who are younger, and whatever reason they don't follow you and I, like you put out a video, you have this group, and then some people see it and will never subscribe. There's another group out there that, for example, I stated this in your Discord yesterday. There's a lot of people out there that have no issues with microtransactions. They don't find them predatory. They choose when to purchase them. They're not like your friend on the fucking golf course. Remember? Your friend who's like, Dad,
can I buy the NBA or whatever? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there trying to tee off, like, biting my tongue, like, don't say it.
Dude, that was an awesome story, though. But that story highlights the difference between people who are, like, almost mired in it and holding on to every problem, and the people who are just sort of touching it whenever something interests them. They're just like, NBA interests me. Not that that was a good decision on that person's point at all.
No.
But I just mean there's so many different experience levels and heightened. Right now there's a heightened scrutiny that I think some people don't feel. But strangely enough, even the people without heightened scrutiny are not huge fans of Fallout 76's current mode. I think that's because also a lot of them were Fallout 4 fans. Like, they were okay with it. Where, like, you and I saw some issues that we wanted more diehard, some stuff there that we would have liked switched. But I think a lot of people, that's why it's the #1 selling Fallout, because I think a lot of people were just like, it's a Fallout, it looks fun, it's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
76 isn't hitting that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
be curious to see the official sales numbers for that. But anyway, I just had to.
Do you think we'll see them?
Probably not. Because we're sitting here talking about Tomb Raider. Oh, what the fuck happened with that? And it's like, we still don't know. And it's like with Fallout, I think.
You don't think Bethesda will
if they're good enough, like, I'm sure Bethesda will tout them, because it usually comes out in interviews. Like, I remember Fallout 4, people were like, yeah,
that's what I was wondering.
The game performed well, but, like, it sucks. And then Bethesda came out and was like, yeah, we sold over 25 million copies, and it's our best-selling game we've ever made. And it's like,
gotcha.
It's like, all right. And that was years after, though. That was years after, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't know then for at least a year.
We just knew Fallout 4, like, beat out Call of Duty when it launched.
Remember that.
And that was kind of it. That was kind of its gauging of success. Like, whoa, it beat it. Oh, and I think I heard 12 million in its first week. Something bonkers. Yeah.
Are you shitting me?
Something
like that. That's insane. That's insane.
Something like that. Like, it was crazy. So, yeah, Fallout 4 did really well. Next, this one I
we can skip best student game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's skip best student game, because I don't know any of these, and in my opinion, you're all winners because you're the future of the industry. So go, all of you. Best indie debut: Donut County, Florence, Moss, The Messenger, Yoku's Island Express. So for those wondering the difference between best independent and best indie debut, this is like the indie studio's first game versus the best independent game that dropped that year. So for me, naturally, it's going to be The Messenger. Great game.
I would say for me, just because I talked to you, it would be The Messenger. I think Moss is really good, but it's a VR game, which, unfortunately,
hard.
Yeah, and they're never full games. Even Moss isn't full. I don't know how to describe it other than Resident Evil and a couple others. They're always an experience, and after a couple hours, you're sort of done. Messenger does not seem like that, so I'll go with Messenger as well.
Awesome. Welcome to the Messenger bandwagon. Now we've got best esports: CS:GO, Dota 2, Fortnite, League of Legends, and Overwatch. Man, this is our last topic, or this is our last selection, Karak, and it's one that I know next to nothing on.
Yeah, I mean, Fortnite, right? Like, that's...
Yeah, right. My heart wants to pick Overwatch because I love Overwatch, but,
Oh, Overwatch. Right.
But like, obviously, League of Legends is a titan. Fortnite is a titan. I mean, these are all the biggest multiplayer
CS:GO
games.
Is a titan.
Yeah, I was going to say, these are the biggest multiplayer games in the industry. So it's like, I feel any of them could be a winner. And I don't track the esports realm tight enough to be like, okay, like, this is the one that's got the edge. And in fact, with Fortnite, I thought it was more so like a bunch of people get together and have fun and play for money. That's kind of what I've seen is like, because I'm friends with some influencers who cover primarily Fortnite content, and I usually see them all like teaming up with a celebrity and then they go and try to play for money, and
Right.
you know, some of it goes to charity and all that stuff. That's what I've seen with Fortnite. I didn't know it had like a competitive, like, team versus team
Element
versus
to
team
it.
versus team. Yeah, I guess, and I knew there were people who like built very fast and were filthy at the game. I knew that was a thing, but I wasn't aware it was like an e-sport. You know, I guess if anything's
Filthy.
popular enough.
Filthy meaning awesome.
Filthy eating awesome, yes.
That's funny. I've never heard it used like that. That's cool.
It's probably probably a New Yorker thing.
I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I mean, I think Overwatch, because I played Overwatch and I liked it, but I even worried that it wouldn't last because at the time it was sort of generic. I think they've in some way, I don't know how. I think they've really just made that game a big deal. So I would hope Overwatch would win because CS:GO, Ancient, don't care. Dota 2, League of Legends, Fortnite, or Overwatch. And Fortnite, I think, probably is going to win just because I think it's #1 back again on Twitch right now. Like,
Insane, dude.
Yeah, their success is it's just unreal.
Yeah, so much money there. But that's all our predictions and what we want to have win in the Game Awards. Obviously, there are still like there's Esports Player of the Year, there's Content Creator of the Year, whatever. But I figured most people want to hear us talk about games, not you know, people, and we're not well versed in esports, so.
Yeah, not at all. I was gonna think, are there any like categories you would like to have seen other than games? We know some games we would like to have seen. Vampire, I think, regardless of how well it did, technically it was good enough that it could have probably been in the role playing. Is there any that you can think of that, like I sort of think it would be cool to have a best sequel, but that's just, I don't know why.
Yeah. I think
like,
you know, because they take this chance to shine the light on the people behind some of this stuff, and so like we see best esports player, best esports coach, best content creator.
They need to have best dev.
Yeah, I'd love to see like a best dev. However, I've noticed though, I mean, we've talked about this. I'll get into that in a second. I'd also like to see kind of like a best upcoming creator, because they do trending gamer, which I think, yeah, I get it, pick the popular ones, but it would be really interesting to see if they kind of shine the light on someone who has like 10K subs and very original content and kind of gave them like a boost, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a small thing that would be really great for a lot of people, because people always complain about like growth, and there's one solution, right?
Yep, for sure.
Just to get more people looking for smaller creators too. Anyway, what was I about to talk about? I held my thought for that thought, and
well, we were just talking about, should there be a best dev award?
Best dev, right. And so where I kind of stand on that is like a lot of developers often go like, well, it's the team. So I feel like that should be a focal point, but I'd love to see somehow a way to highlight the developers, you know, not just their games, but the people who work on them. Take this as an opportunity to humanize that, because, you know, it'll never be perfect, of course, but there are the people who, you know, leave their hurtful comments, and some of these, you know, these developers are people, and I think a lot of people forget that and just kind of post senseless, mean shit about their work without considering, you know, there are people on the other end who worked very hard on things, and, you know, you can be stern and critical without being a douche, right? So I'd love for them to find a way without making it like, you know, for example, Corey Barlog of, you know, of Sony Santa Monica for best dev of the year. I feel like that just kind of puts certain developers on a pedestal rather than celebrating
it'd be better
teams.
if it was the team.
Yeah, like best developer, like studio wise.
Studio. I think that makes a good best publisher. I think that is a good point, especially when you look at, for right now, they do best music, and then they always just put the one composer. Well, guess what? There's 8,000 people who played instruments on that fucking thing. There's 1,000 people who figure out where to put the audio. I've had people from Pillars of Eternity, the main person who does, Josh Sawyer, who does the music, and he's like, it's not just one fucking person. I mean, he's like, probably the majority, but it's like there's other people coming in and doing all this stuff. So it would be cool to have like best or maybe up and coming dev team. Like, even if they can't talk a ton about their game, but it would be cool to have like up and coming dev team and sort of talk about their, you know, a new game that they're doing, even though, let's be honest, probably No Man's Sky would have been the first one in this group, and we saw how that worked. Right. But it would be cool to celebrate them, because I don't want to see, I love Ken Levine, for example. I don't want to see him win every fucking award. I don't want to see Chris Avalone or Avalone or whatever win every award. You know, there's other writers out there. There's other people. So it would be cool to, in some way, try to sort of get those people celebrated. Because there's some podunk person whose their only job is to make shoes in a game. That person should be celebrated at some point.
Yeah, like, I mean, Spider-Man had the punk Spidey or Spidey punk costume, and if you someone posted a picture of the bottom of the shoes, and if you go like this with them, it actually makes a whole image.
Oh, no shit.
Like an artist said, like, this was my project for the longest time.
That's awesome.
And it's like, dude, that's the thing. It's like, you know, that's the beauty of Twitter, right? It can shine the light on people like that. But it's like, I'd love for on the big stage where we're celebrating games to see
writer
stuff like that. Yeah, best writer.
Because
sure.
You know, a lot of times, a lot of the games you and I both happen to like are ones with heavy story emphasis. I think overall, that's, in fact, I would say we're fairly heavy on.
Well, yeah, because I think that can get mixed up with performance and delivery. Just kind of going off the Fallout 76 discussion we were having, I said in my review, I was like, the game has solid voice acting because there's a lot of audio delivery through holotapes and hearing messages over the radio, but the writing isn't good, where I was never captivated. It wasn't anyone's performance that was bad. It was, you know, they sold their emotions just fine and brought it to my attention, but like what was being said, I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, they did what they could with what they had.
Exactly. Yeah, what was available.
There's a lot. I would say also I'd like to see most improved, whether it be most improved company, because Microsoft would probably get that for me. Especially because I was highly critical of them for a long time. Halo Wars 2.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to see that. I also, the reason why I brought up sequel is because I'm fairly harsh on sequels. Like, I think notoriously I'm fairly harsh on sequels. They have to
expect to step forward.
Yeah, you expect to step forward. And I think that there was a lot of sequels that are in none of those lists that I would have actually liked somebody to, you know, sort of bring forward and shine some light on.
Yeah.
It's better than influencer stuff. I just never understood that, nor would I ever accept that. Like, not that I would ever be on that list, but I would be like...
I'm surprised you never have been, bro. Honestly, you
Well,
have...
I mean, I get mentioned, but it's like, I'm not Ninja.
Yeah.
You and I combined aren't even Ninja.
I know, right? I just feel like, you know... I feel like you deserve to be on that list because of how, like, consumer-driven you are, how much, you know, how well your reviews do, and how much of a leader you are to a lot of us, myself included, with how you create your content, right? You know, like, I think...
I appreciate that.
Dude, I think, you know, my reviews do well now, and part of it's probably because people know I talk to you, and like, I'm just a sponge when it comes to you a lot of times, dude. Like, I just absorb what you say, and because it improved who I was and how I created a lot. So, you know, that's why I'm sitting here, like, I feel like, yeah, you should be in the talks. Even if you wouldn't take it, I think it would just be awesome to see you on that type of pedestal.
It'd be cool to refuse it, go up there and be like, no. Yeah. And by the way, if anybody accepts it, if anybody accepts it, I have no problem with that. I'm just saying, it feels weird. It's almost like a Pulitzer, but given at the Oscars. Like or some other award given at the wrong place, like an influencer award at the video game place. That would be like having a journalist award at the video game place.
Which is also strange, because you feel like if you have one, why not the other, right? To be fair, like if I were a journalist, I'd be like, why are the influencers but not the people who...
bro.
Yeah, it's strange.
Exactly. And some of them are both. Giant Bomb, for instance. Jeff Gerstmann, he's both. He's very much press, very much, and then also he makes videos with just him, so he's obviously an influencer. So it's all like somebody who's very important like that, whether you like him or dislike him. I think he's fairly pro-consumer for sure, and he's pro the industry, all that stuff. That somebody like that, to me, it makes sense to have. If you're going to do the awards, then that award should be there. Like, there should be something that's like mixes it together.
Because they're always, you know, they already have so many awards, but I think they could like trim some down. Like I think you could put indie debut with independent game. I think action game should just be stripped away. Just leave it as action adventure. Make the category bigger.
Yeah.
Games for impact, I think a lot of games strive for impact. So it's like, yeah, I don't want to say remove that category because I think it just creates a discussion that, a lot of folks may not be having. But,
Well, and like, I don't know about you, and I don't know about the Oscars, so somebody can correct me. It feels like they've artificially restricted the winners to like 4 or 5. Where personally, I feel like, why couldn't you say best role-playing game, and there's fucking 10 entries? There's more than enough people voting that you could figure out ties or what have you.
Yeah.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you. Do you believe that a game that's on best game of the year should also be allowed to be on its own genre as well? Because I've talked about that, to where if a game is on the best game of the year, then maybe the genre that it's in should not have it in that list. Does that make sense?
So you're saying if it's on the game of the year list, it shouldn't be in a specific genre?
I feel like Red Dead could win them all.
Right, right.
And that while it may be an example of that, it's also trying to shine a light on things. And I feel that if you see Red Dead in 15 awards lists, that means 15 other games haven't been put in. And I get it though. I understand why it's done. This is something I've talked about internally on, like, with people on my Discord, like when I do the awards. Like, should I say, if you're a best racing game, or maybe do you do it where if they win, then they're not going to be in the next end? Like, I don't know.
Okay.
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got what you're saying now. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because I feel like what it would do in turn is also kind of punctuate the Game of the Year award, right? It would be like, this is your Game of the Year, rather than like almost slightly watering down other awards, by being like, here's the same like 3 games from the Game of the Year list in almost every entry because they're just that good. But on the other hand, I think I know you said you see both sides, but I guess I'll just emphasize that a little bit more, that I feel like, when it comes to, we'll say, sound and music, like, I think all of those games from the Game of the Year list have like a reason for being on them. Same thing with art direction, because these games of the year are like it's a
conglomeration of all those.
Yeah, it's all of it. They do all of it right, which is why they're our most highly touted games. So it's kind of like a domino effect.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I agree. It kind of waters down some of the awards where it's like, all right, I want to see someone else win something, not Red Dead take home 20.
Yeah, or Lady Gaga, who's going to win every Oscar or whatever for her fucking movie. And you're just like, they're going to be in everything. But I guess it's unfair. You are right. You didn't say it was unfair, but it is unfair now that I think about it. Because if you say Forza 4 is in the Game of the Year, so it can't be in the racing one, what if it loses Game of the Year? Then are we arbitrarily saying it can't be in all the other lists? That would be unfair. So yeah, it's tough, man, because like there's so many. I just think there should be more choices, Maddie. They're like, when I'm doing top
I think
Game of the Year, there's going to be at least 10, right?
Same.
I mean, how
Especially
many
this year?
Yeah, wouldn't you assume 10 is like a good?
For me, I'm a little different. I normally did 5, but this year I wanted to elevate it, so I'm doing 10 because I thought this year was that good. And I also think my line of thinking for Game of the Year would be a little particularly linear. I'd be more of like, these have to be the best of the best, where like Monster Hunter, I think is going to be at my number. Wait, I'm trying to remember my number 10. And I want to say it's Monster Hunter. Let's say hypothetically it is Monster Hunter, because I have to go look up my list. But, just because I didn't think Monster Hunter was like the best game, doesn't mean that it's like not a damn good game that like I spent a lot of time with and I really enjoyed every minute of it, and here's why, right? Like, I think it's easy to get into such like a constricted tunnel vision when it comes to Game of the Year, because we're looking at the best of the best instead of expanding our list and being like, here's obviously not the best game of the year. Like, I have Octopath Traveler there, not the best game of the year, but like art-wise, sound-wise, world-building-wise, one of the best games I played this year. And I appreciated that. So that's why it's on my list.
Are you going to run into problems if you buy Smash and it's amazing?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right? Like, that's the big, like, that's a it's it's a problem with timing, Matty, because like if we celebrate it next year, I couldn't tell you what a December release is from last year. They don't get we pretend like they can go into the next year's awards, but I think they rarely, if ever, do. Even God of War, you even said you liked it a lot, but it like gets minimalized because of all these other big games. And it's like, well, should it be? Or if you replayed it, what have you, would it be great? That's a game that came out this year, let alone a game that came out in December of last year.
Bro. This year has felt so enormous. Like I was like, I don't know if you've ever had this thought before. You see a game and you go, "Oh right, that came out this year," and it feels like forever ago. Like Kingdom Come, I'm like, I thought that was last year.
Can you believe that shit? That was this year. I just found that out.
Yeah, I'm just like, I like that game a lot. I thought that was a great game after some patches, but I thought it was a great game, and I was like, fuck me, that came out this year. You got to be joking. Like, there's just some games.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it is crazy, that one in particular, because if you had asked me prior to yesterday, when the people in Discord told me when it came out, I would say it was like last fall, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, that's how long ago that feels. And it's got a ton of DLC. They've done a really good job. I had issues just like you did. And then when I looked it up in my review list, it was like January or February. And I was just all, oh, for fuck's sakes, are you kidding me? It's so shocking to see those kind of titles. And there's so many of them this year. It's a spectacular year. And that's why I think it might also be my favorite year of gaming ever. Just
really? Wow.
Yeah, like I looked BioWare, Bungie, and Blizzard, or BioWare, Bungie, and one other company did Microsoft's Mass Effect, Halo, and one other one. I can't remember. They had a really good year. I think it was 2009.
Right.
It was an insane year. But dude, this year, it's unbelievable. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's been a really good year.
Do you think it's your favorite?
Outside of Fallout. That's the thing. Fallout would have been like the icing on the cake for me, right? Like, if the way as a Bethesda Game Studios fan, they've made some of my favorite games ever. That would have been like the like, not even, it didn't even have to be like incredible, right? It just had to be like a good game. And
one more good game,
right? Because for me, it was like, all right, we got like Spider-Man lived up to hype, Red Dead fucking crushed it, Assassin's Creed renewed, nice year of indies. Like, I loved The Messenger, and there were obviously, as we alluded to on the list, there's a lot of great entries there. Octopath is a great year for JRPGs. We're seeing them kind of like have a resurgence. There were more niche games, kind of like Kingdom Come Deliverance, trying something new, Vampire, trying something new. It was an amazing year. It's hard to say, because like for me, the best year of gaming to me was, man, I remember 2013 so well.
What was it?
That was The Last of Us, BioShock Infinite, and GTA 5. And while GTA 5 isn't as high on my list, like BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us are some of my favorite games ever made.
I enjoyed Infinite.
Yeah, and to have both those games drop within a 3-month span of each other, oh Lord, I can't. I love those games so much. BioShock, one of my favorite series of all time. The Last of Us, obviously just has a very bright future, despite it taking forever for it to get a second entry.
Yeah.
But, wow. And just to have two games like that drop in the same year, to me, is just unprecedented. I haven't had that before. I had, Nier Automata last year. Last year was great for me because of Japanese gaming. Last year was really good for me because, what did I have? Danganronpa, Persona, and Nier. I was like, what else do I fucking need?
Yeah, Persona and Nier, Nier in particular, I've got some heat lately for bringing up Nier. I guess now as the game as it's gotten older, people have like gotten more negative towards it. But
really?
For me at least, I thought Nier was they did. There was a couple issues, but holy fuck! And I was talking to a fan a couple days ago, and they were talking, and I was like, "What's your favorite music?" I just was randomly asking her, like, what? And I guess I was expecting Witcher 3 or something. Like, I was expecting the big titles, and she was talking about Nier, and then it reminded me of like the soundtrack, this cannot continue, this cannot continue. And it was just like, I remember playing that game, and there was an influencer manager you and I've worked with, Andy, and I posted something on Twitter, and he posted back, and he's like, "Is it really that good, and I'm all, dude, you have no. It's like I can't even describe to you what it was like playing that, and that music started, and just being like, all right, what the fuck? This is the best fucking music I've ever heard in my life.
Become as gods. This cannot continue. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, it was. And then there's right before that fight. Right before that boss. There's a dark tunnel, and I had a fight in there, and I could only see like the lights of their eyes.
Yes.
And I did this amazing like combo, and I remember just being not floored with my ability, but floored with like how it looked. Like I was like, I can't even see what's happening, and this is the coolest looking thing I've ever seen. Like it's just whirling of blades, and
dude,
yeah, I forgot
that game. It takes my words away because I love that game so much. It's it's actually what we were talking about with this game of the year list. It was everything I wanted. It was an excellent fucking action game. It was a really good story that oh my god, it moves you. It's a treat, man. That's the thing. The music is obviously like, I think, the highlight. Like it's one of those games where we're like, even if you don't like it, or you're one of those people who, like, as Karak said, you kind of like, you're not as big on it now as you once were. Like you can go back and be like, this soundtrack's something special.
Yeah, it's something special.
Yeah, and I just find it funny that, Yoko Taro, who's like behind all of it, it's like, yeah, I usually write this when I'm drunk, and like when we were directing the music, I looked up videos on YouTube and sent them to our composer and was like, something like this. And it's like, yeah, it's just, I love reading his interviews because it's just fascinating that like that's how someone directed a game that's so good.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's of course probably one thing that matters is the producer of the game, because they're the ones who are like deciding a lot of times the overall process. But this year, even with Nier, this year is one of those years where, and I missed a ton of games. And people have been all over me, and sometimes it was tech issues and sometimes it was just too busy. But it's like the games I missed were excellent so that I could cover an excellent game, which is rare. Usually I'll go, I'm going to cover this game because I have a feeling it's going to be something I want to tell consumers about. And this other game I'm going to pass up. And this year was the first year where I was panicking, just going like, how the fuck? Like it's especially once indies started looking like AAAs. Like Ori, I think, really did sort of shake the pillars where it's like, oh shit, this is, you could call it an indie almost.
Yeah,
and it looks
but it's like, does
this.
It work?
Yeah, right. And then you get that confusing part where you're all,
right.
How do we rate this? And you and I even talked about it.
Where Ori was only asking for $20. It added like more to it, where you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. It adds more weight to it because it's like the requirement from you is less, and then you see you're almost being overpaid in a way, or your return is higher than a $60 good game. This is a $20 amazing game, and you sit back and go, fuck. And Ori was last year, right?
Ori in the Blind Forest.
Yeah, that was last year, or even the year before.
That was, oh man, I want to say 2014.
Okay. Oh, whoa, wow, boy, that's bad. I thought it was like, oh wow, see that just goes to show you. But dude, yeah, it's an amazing. That's why like the negativity is easy for me to accept, because there's all these bad things, but an Assassin's Creed game is on many people's Game of the Year list, and I do not think that people understand the weight of that yet.
No.
Like, even you and I, who haven't hated Ubisoft games, probably would have never said the next game after Origins, not at the Pyramids, would be like on many people's top 3.
Yeah, no shot. Especially you would have thought it would have been like kind of like a half step. Like, yeah, some mistakes, but it was like mostly really good.
Yep.
It's fucking wild.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's an awesome time to cover games, for sure.
Absolutely. Anyway, that's all we've got for episode 180 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast. We hope all of you enjoyed. Karak, we'll see if these predictions next week have come true.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Whatsoever. Or if we're just totally off the mark.
I'll miss everything.
All right. And we will catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace out.